An immortal cultivator clan cannot become arrogant. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201, Heading to the 10,000 Islands Chain. After Ling Youdao left a meeting hall, he returned to the seven-house compound and found Mu Yanran. Yanran, the mission assigned to us by the family has come down. Mu Yanran looked at Ling Youdao with a hint of doubt on her face. Yes, you have to participate in this mission as well. Of course, if you don't want to participate, you can tell me and I will explain it to my second grandfather. I don't think he will make it difficult for you. Mu Yanran waved her hand. No, the family is willing to assign me a mission, which means they have accepted me. I am so happy. How can I feel embarrassed? She had a slight smile on her face. Not only did she not feel embarrassed, but she was actually very happy in her heart. Ling Youdao nodded. Okay, we will fight side by side. By the way, Brother Youdao, what tasks did the family assign to us? You also know the current situation of the family. In order to increase income, the family decided to send us to the 10,000 Islands chain to hunt monsters. What? We are going to the 10,000 Islands chain to hunt monsters? Brother Youdao, aren't the two of us too few? The 10,000 Islands chain is an area where humans and monsters fight each other. There are a large number of monsters hidden in the sea. Even foundation building cultivators have to act carefully, otherwise they are likely to lose their lives there. So, it's no wonder that Mu Yanran is so worried. Who doesn't know the dangers of the 10,000 Islands chain? The family must have sent more than just the two of us, including our great-grandfather Ling Youdao, second uncle Ling Dingshan, and sixth aunt Ling Dingxi. In order to ensure our safety, the family also used the treasure ship. If that's the case, it's not a bad idea to go to the 10,000 Islands chain to hunt monsters, Ling Youdao said. Then let's make a deal. Make more preparations before departure. It's better to be prepared, okay? Ling Yuanxiang not only notified Ling Youdao, but also sent someone to notify Ling Youdao, Ling Dingshan, and Ling Dingxi. After receiving the order, the three immediately returned to Cangli Island from the islands they were guarding. Ling Yuanxiang only asked the three to return to Cangli Island immediately, but did not tell them why they had to return to Cangli Island. So after returning to Cangli Island, the three immediately went to the meeting hall to ask Ling Yuanxiang, and they learned that they were going to form a team to go to the 10,000 Islands chain to hunt monsters. Ling Youdao lifespan was not much, and now he was the kind of dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. Ling Dingshan was originally a person who was not afraid of anything, and he showed a lot of courage. Compared with the two people in front, Ling Dingxi seemed a little flustered. She knew her own strength and was a little worried about the trip to the 10,000 Islands chain. After the three of them resolved their doubts, they left the meeting hall. Before setting off, the three of them also needed to make preparations. The sun rose and the moon set, and a month passed quickly. Ling Youdao, Ling Yuanxiang, Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingzong, Ling Dingxi, Ling Youdao, and Mu Yanran gathered at the dock of Cangli Island. Behind the five of them were 13 late-stage key training monks. The 5 foundation-building monks were the main force in hunting monsters. And the 13 key training monks were mainly responsible for cleaning the battlefield. There were many ships docked at the dock, and one of them stood out. Although the ship looked slightly smaller than the surrounding ships, it gave people a sense of indestructibility. At a glance, it could be seen that this treasure ship was different from the surrounding ships. Ling Yuanxiang said, "It is dangerous to go to the 10,000 Islands chain to hunt monsters. I hope you can all come back safely." All come back safely? This is impossible, otherwise it wouldn't be called the 10,000 Islands chain. Ling Youdao said, "Thank you for your good words, second brother." Immediately, he turned around and waved, saying, "Get on board." After that, the 13 key training monks standing behind him quickly boarded the treasure ship, and Ling Youdao and his 5 companions followed. "Let's go." The next moment, the treasure ship slowly left the dock and turned away. The setting sun reflected the Red Sea surface, and under the sea was a broken picture of heaven and earth. Ling Yuanxiang and Ling Dingzong looked at the treasure ship that was gradually going away. On the treasure ship, Ling Youdao also looked at the two people, as well as Cangli Island and Qingkang Mountain. He knew his situation best. Now he could only exert the strength of a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building, and his lifespan was not much. This trip to the 10,000 Islands chain was dangerous. If he was not careful, he would be buried in a foreign land, and this might be the last time he saw this place. When the ship disappeared under the sea level, Ling Yuanxiang said, "Let's go. They have their own things to do, and we have our own things to do, all for the sake of the entire Cangli Ling clan." Ling Dingzhuang nodded, and the two of them sacrificed their respective flying swords and flew back to the meeting hall in the middle of Qingkang Mountain. The treasure ship left the Liuyan Islands, crossed the meteoric sea, and arrived at the Baiyun Islands in 11 days. After Ling Youdao and others rested for a day, they continued to take the treasure ship to the southwest. There are few islands in the vast sea area between the 10,000 Islands chain and the 1,000 Islands chain, and there are few human immortal cultivation forces. Therefore, during the whole process, Ling Yuangu and others did not plan to stop somewhere to rest, but went straight to the destination of this trip, the largest human immortal cultivation market in the 10,000 Islands chain, that is, the Golden Dragon Market. With the speed of the treasure ship of the Cangli Ling clan, it would take 4 or 5 months to reach the Golden Dragon Market. Ling Yuangu divided everyone into 5 groups, each with 1 foundation building cultivator and 2 key training cultivators, and 3 of the groups had 3 key training cultivators each. For the next 5 months, 5 groups took turns to guard the treasure ship. When someone was guarding the treasure ship, the others could rest. According to the plan designated by Ling Yuangu, Ling Youdao led people to guard the first month, Mu Yanren led people to guard the second month, Ling Dingxi led people to guard the third month, Ling Dingshan led people to guard the fourth month, and Ling Yuangu led people to guard the last month. As they got closer and closer to the 10,000 Islands chain, the possibility of encountering danger became greater and greater, so Ling Yuangu ranked himself last. Who said he was the one with the highest cultivation and the oldest among the crowd? Ling Youdao guarded the ship. 1 key training monk was responsible for controlling the treasure ship, and the other 2 key training monks patrolled the treasure ship. On the vast sea, everything was the same. 1 month did not increase, but the key training monks who were guarding felt it was so long. 1 month finally passed, and the first few people rested. Mu Yanren took 3 key training monks to replace Ling Youdao. In this way, until the 5th month, Ling Yuangu took people to replace Ling Dingshan to guard the treasure ship. At this time, they had already entered the sea area where the 10,000 Islands chain was located, but it was still a long way from the Golden Dragon Market. After more than 20 days, there were more and more ships around the treasure ship, and many of them were heading in one direction. The key training monks of the Cangli Ling family controlled the treasure ship to follow the ships, and after half a day, they arrived at the port of the Golden Dragon Market. The port was huge, and it was unknown how many ships it could accommodate. Only the vague boundary could be seen at a glance. Chapter 202, First Monster Hunt. The 5 foundation-building monks of the Cangli Ling clan stood on the deck of the treasure ship, looking at everything around them. Except for Ling Yuangu, they all felt very fresh. Ling Youdao asked, "Grandpa, have you been to the 10,000 Islands chain before?" Hearing this, Ling Yuangu nodded. "I came here once when I was building my foundation, and stayed in the Golden Dragon Market for a year, and then returned to the family." Suddenly, Ling Youdao's eyes narrowed. Standing in the air, this is a Jindan's Henren. Everyone looked in the direction he was looking at, and indeed saw a person standing in the air, directing the foundation-building monks below. And those foundation-building monks were directing the sea ships one by one, where they should dock. Ling Dingxi sighed. A dignified Jindan's Henren actually personally directs the docking of the sea ships. In her eyes, a Jindan's Henren should be like Ling Chuan, rarely showing up at ordinary times, and only playing a decisive role at critical moments. Ling Yuangu said, "The Golden Dragon Market was jointly opened by the 5 major sects in the North Sea. It is the #1 immortal cultivation market in the 10,000 Islands chain. Even if it is enlarged to the entire North Sea, it is second only to the Wufang City immortal cultivation market." Ling Dingxi asked curiously, "Uncle, what about the 3rd-ranked immortal cultivation market?" "The 3rd-ranked market in the North Sea is the Begi Market." Begi Market was originally the 2nd-largest immortal cultivation market in the North Sea, but was surpassed by the up-and-coming Golden Dragon Market. Ling Yuangu reminded everyone, "Remember, you must keep a low profile. A foundation-building cultivator may be considered a master in Liuyan Islands, but here he can't even make a wave. Golden Dragon Market is full of masters, and there are all kinds of people. Many major forces in the North Sea have cultivators active here." Ling Youdao asked, "Grandpa, are there any cultivators from Baiyun sect here?" When true man Mu Yun was still here, Baiyun's sect was one of the top 10 Jindan forces in the North Sea, so it was natural that Baiyun's sect had a base here. However, with true man Yuyun's death in the Thunder Tribulation, Baiyun's sect's strength has greatly decreased. It is estimated that the cultivators in Golden Dragon Market should be much more low-key. Immediately, he said, there are 3 Yuanying ancestors in the open and Golden Dragon Market, and there must be 1 or 2 Yuanying ancestors hidden, and there are more than 20 Jindan cultivators. If you count the Jindan cultivators from independent cultivators and other forces, there are almost 50 Jindan cultivators. As for the foundation building cultivators and key training cultivators, there are so many that it is difficult for outsiders to count. There is a large spiritual vein on the island where the Golden Dragon Market is located. Its owner is the Golden Dragon King, who is in the nascent soul stage. After the Golden Dragon King was killed, the Eastern human race occupied the island. Because there is a large spiritual vein on it, which can be used for the nascent soul ancestors to practice, the island was named Golden Dragon Island, and as Yuxin Market was established on the island, which is now the Golden Dragon Market. Ling Youdao, you only need to remember one thing, that is, don't cause trouble for the family. The current family can't withstand another major disaster. Hearing this, Ling Youdao and others nodded very seriously. Understood. The next moment, a foundation-building cultivator was seen flying in the distance on a sword. After arriving above the treasure ship, he looked at everyone and said seriously, "Are you from the Cangli Ling family in the Meteoric Sea, Liuyan Islands?" This is not the first time that the treasure ship of the Cangli Ling family has come to the Golden Dragon Market. The Port Management Office has relevant information about the Cangli Ling family. So it was judged at the beginning, but it was only to prevent misjudgment that it was asked again. Ling Youdao smiled at the man and said, "Thank you for your courtesy, fellow Taoist. We are the cultivators of Cangli Ling's clan." The man nodded and said, "Follow me." As he spoke, he flew ahead on his sword, and the key cultivating cultivator of Cangli Ling's clan controlled the treasure ship to catch up with him. Because there were too many ships in the port, the speed of travel could not be too fast. It was not until an hour later that the person leading the way stopped. The man pointed to an empty berth and said, "This is your berth. Starting from next month, you will need to pay a fee of 300 low-grade spirit stones every month. If you don't pay, we will seize your treasure ship until you pay the rent in full." Hearing this, Ling Youdao said with a smile on his face, "Understood." The man nodded, and then flew away on his sword. After the treasure ship docked, Ling Youdao said, "You heard what I said just now. We need to pay a rent of 300 low-grade spirit stones every month, which is 3,600 low-grade spirit stones a year, so we have to start hunting monsters as soon as possible." Ling Youdao said, "Grandpa, let's take a few days off first, okay, then take a 7-day break and live on the treasure ship. If you have nothing to do, don't go to the market too much. If you really need to go to the market, you must tell me first. Do you understand?" Everyone replied in unison, "I understand." "Okay, then go and rest. The inns in the market require spirit stones to stay, so many cultivators who hunt monsters live on sea ships, so that they only need to pay the rent for a berth to solve many problems." The treasure ship of the Cangli Ling family is divided into 3 floors. The middle floor is for living, and the lower floor is for storage. In a room on the middle floor, Ling Youdao and Mu Yanran sat on the bed. "How is it? Are you used to it?" Mu Yanran nodded. "Not bad. We will start hunting monsters in 7 days. We need to rest well these few days." "Yes." In the 7 days, no one went to the market, and they were all on the treasure ship. Ling Youdao gathered everyone and said, "Okay, we will start going out to sea to hunt monsters soon. Everyone should be vigilant." Yes, the treasure ship slowly sailed out of the berth, and after sailing for a distance, it turned to the depths of the sea after pulling away from other ships. After sailing for more than 100 miles, they finally saw a fish monster wandering on the sea. "Grandpa, there is a monster over there. It looks like it is only a first-class monster." "Yes, it is indeed a first-class monster." Ling Youdao smiled and said, "How about I go over and kill the monster and get off to a good start?" Hearing this, Ling Youdao waved his hand and said, "It is just a first-class monster. Why does a foundation-building cultivator like you need to take action?" He turned around and pointed at a late-stage key training cultivator casually, saying, "You do it." "Yes, Elder. First launch the monster trap net to trap the first-class monster, and then launch the fatal gun." This key training clan member followed Ling Youdao command and aimed at the first-class monster on the sea in the distance. He saw the magic formula in his hand change, and the treasure ship shot out more a ball of spiritual light. The spiritual light opened above the monster, and then instantly fell and covered the monster inside. Hiss! The monster roared in fear and anger, twisting its body continuously, but it could not break free from the monster trap net. Seeing this, the magic formula in this person's hand changed again, and a fine iron spear shot out instantly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203. There are so many monsters in the 10,000 Islands chain. The speed of the fine iron spear was extremely fast, but it failed to hit the monster in the monster net, but shot to the side, piercing a series of bubbles. Ling Youdao said, "Try it again." Yes, as he said that, the man continued to pinch the magic formula with his hands, controlling a fine iron spear to shoot at the monster in the monster net. The fine iron spear made a whistling sound, and in the blink of an eye it hit the first level top grade monster in the monster net. Squeak! I saw that most of the fine iron spear was embedded in the body of the monster, and the huge pain made it unable to help but let out a deafening roar. Then the monster's cry became smaller and smaller, and soon it was completely inaudible. Elder, fortunately I have fulfilled my mission and successfully killed this monster. Hearing this, Ling Youdao stroked his beard and showed a smile on his face. The monster that was just killed was as powerful as a cultivator at the 9th level of key training, but the person who shot it was only a cultivator at the 7th level of key training, but he was able to kill it so easily. If all the key training monks on the treasure ship can do the same, they will surely be able to hunt down a large number of monsters. That's right, he immediately said, drive the treasure ship over and deal with the killed monsters. The people who received the order immediately drove the treasure ship towards the corpse of the monster. Blood flowed from the corpse of the monster, dyeing the sea area of 20 to 30 feet red. The treasure ship hit the corpse of the monster. Ling Youdao said, hurry up and deal with the corpse of the monster. Yes. Then 3 key training monks jumped off the ship and landed on the corpse of the monster. They waved their swords and knives and worked hard to dismember the corpse of the monster. The demon pill of this monster, the scales on the outside, the fins, the fish tail, and even the fish bones connected to the spine can all be used to refine weapons. The 3 of them worked together for half an hour to dismember the entire corpse of the monster, collect the useful and valuable parts, and leave the rest in the sea. The space on the lower level of the treasure ship is very large, which can easily accommodate the entire corpse of the monster. But for a foundation-building cultivator, the value of a mere first-class upper-grade monster's corpse is very limited. The lower level of the treasure ship is reserved for second-class monsters. Only the flesh and blood of such monsters can be sold for a lot of spiritual stones, so they need to be transported away in one piece. The treasure ship went far away, and soon, many fish gathered here. Although this monster only reached the first-class upper grade, its flesh and blood still contained a lot of spiritual power. For ordinary fish and shrimp, it is definitely a feast for the gluttons. With the nourishment of spiritual power, their strength will also be greatly improved. After an incense stick, as a first-class lower-grade monster came, the surrounding ordinary fish and shrimps immediately scattered. On the other side, after the treasure ship traveled a distance, it encountered a first-class middle-grade monster again. Ling Youdao looked at the tribe member who had hunted the first-class upper-grade monster before and said, "You don't need to come this time." Then he pointed to another junior in the key training stage and said, "This time you come to shoot the monster." Hearing this, everyone understood his thoughts. He wanted these 13 juniors in the key training stage to try hunting monsters. Hunting monsters in the sea is different from hunting monsters on land. The latter is easier, and the former is relatively difficult. Because the monsters in the sea will immediately dive into the seabed as soon as they feel that they cannot defeat the enemy, and then sneak away in the deep. Even if you want to chase them, the possibility of catching up is very small. The monsters on land are different. Because there is no sea water to block them, the cultivators have more room to play, and can more easily catch up, or prevent the monsters from escaping. Therefore, when hunting monsters in the sea, if the strength difference is not big, it is best to choose a long-range attack, and it would be better if it is a fatal attack. First, use the monster trap net to trap the monster and prevent it from escaping, then shoot the long spear to kill the monster. This is the simplest and most efficient method, summarized by the cultivators over tens of thousands of years. Ling Youdao goal is to train the 13 juniors so that they can also hunt monsters well and make some contributions to the Cangli Ling family. Yes, after the man saw the location of the monster, he also pinched the magic formula with his hands. A ball of spiritual light flew to the sky above the monster, and then opened into a large net shining with spiritual light. The large net fell in an instant, but the monster below seemed to have noticed it long ago. Before the big net trapped it, it swam away, leaving only circles of waves and whirlpools in its place. Seeing this, Ling Youdao did not blame him, but said, "Continue next time." The man nodded, "Yes, elder." After a while, a first-level low-grade monster was seen swimming 3 feet below the sea. The man made full preparations, and a ball of spiritual light flew out, spreading into a large net, which instantly fell and trapped the monster 3 meters below the sea surface. Ling Youdao asked the younger generations in the key training period to hunt monsters by themselves. If they failed, they would continue until they successfully hunted a monster. The 10,000 Islands chain is indeed a region where humans and monsters fight each other. They have only been active on the eastern edge of the 10,000 Islands chain, and they have encountered so many monsters. It can be seen how dense the monsters are in the middle and western parts of the 10,000 Islands chain. They have encountered many first-level monsters, but they have never encountered second-level monsters. It is normal that there are not many second-level monsters here. After all, this place is too close to Jindan Island. First, because of the powerful strength of the monks on Jindan Island, they dare not approach Jindan Island. Second, because there are too many monks hunting monsters near Jindan Island, they have hunted all the second-level monsters here, so it is difficult to see second-level monsters. Ling Youdao is not anxious about this. After wandering around the sea area for 7 or 8 days, he continued to train the younger generation in the key training period to hunt monsters. On the 9th day, he said, "We have stayed here long enough, and they are almost trained. Let's continue to go west and hunt second-level monsters." Hearing this, Ling Youdao and others said, "We should have done this a long time ago." Then, the treasure ship sailed westward quickly. There was no need to look for it deliberately, and many first-level monsters were encountered along the way. However, these first-level monsters are very alert. If they feel something is wrong, they will dive into the deep sea, leaving the people on the sea helpless. Ling Youdao, Ling Youdao, and Mu Yanran attacked at the same time several times, killing a large number of first-level monsters, and then the cultivators in the key training period dismembered the bodies of the monsters and took away the useful and valuable parts. Although they encountered a second-level monster, they also collected a lot of materials from the monster, which were worth a lot of spirit stones. Looking at the vast sea, Ling Youdao couldn't help but say, "There are indeed many monsters here, but there are no second-level monsters. The value of a second-level monster is far beyond that of a first-level monster. Only one second-level monster corpse, or at most 2 second-level monster corpses, is worth more than the hard work of the past 10 days. The next moment, Mu Yanran suddenly pointed in a direction and said, "Brother Youdao, look there." Hearing this, Ling Youdao looked in the direction of his finger. Chapter 204 Red Tide. In front of everyone's eyes, a sea snake about 5 or 6 feet long unfolded its body and lay on the beach. Ling Youdao said immediately, "It is definitely a second-level monster." The treasure ship was still quite far away from the island where the sea snake was, and the sea snake deliberately concealed its aura, so everyone could not determine its specific level. But one thing everyone could be sure of was that the sea snake was definitely a second-level monster. When the treasure ship was more than 300 feet away from the island, the sea snake had already noticed it, and a strong second-level monster aura quickly swept out from it. That sea snake is a second-level low-grade monster. We can't let it go. Kill it. Before he finished speaking, Ling Youdao, Ling Youdao, and Mu Yanran flew out of the treasure ship on their swords and headed towards the sea snake lying on the beach. The sea snake on the beach raised its body, facing the 4 people flying on swords, and its forked tongue went in and out. Suddenly, the sea snake spit out more a ball of dark green liquid forward. Although the dark green liquid was extremely fast, everyone still managed to avoid it. The dark green liquid shot into the air and landed in the sea. It spread out in an instant, polluting the sea area of 200 to 300 feet in radius. Immediately, the sea surface was filled with a boiling sound of poison hitting the ground, and the creatures swimming on the sea surface died on the spot. Ling Youdao laughed, "You evil beast, you dare to attack me, I will kill you today." Then he saw the mountain-shaking hammer in his left hand fly out and hit the sea snake that raised its body. Feeling the strong wind coming towards it, the sea snake knew that there was danger coming, and swung its tail to yank at the mountain-shaking hammer. The huge force made a crackling sound, as if it was whipping a rolling cow with a rope. The mountain-shaking hammer was whipped away, and changed direction in the middle of the way, heading towards Ling Youdao, and was held in his left hand again. "You are quite capable." Ling Youdao sacrificed the yin-yang zhuangguang sword, which was suspended in front of him, with a shining light on it. "Go!" The yin-yang zhuangguang sword thrust out instantly, and the target was the head of the sea snake. The sea snake tilted its upper body, and slapped the yin-yang zhuangguang sword from the side. The yin-yang zhuangguang sword was slapped away, drew an arc in the air, and continued to stab the sea snake. Mu Yanran gently fanned the sea snake with a 5-color fan in her hand, and a gust of wind with a fresh fragrance blew towards the sea snake. The sea snake twisted its lower body, trying to quickly move away from the original place and avoid the strong wind. The strong wind was avoided by it, but the fragrance that followed the strong wind could not be avoided. It froze in place, motionless, as if it was cast under a spell of immobilization. "Brother Youdao, hurry up." "Okay." Ling Youdao changed the magic formula in his hand, and the speed of the yin-yang zhuangguang sword increased sharply, leaving only a residual image of the sword on the spot. As soon as the residual image disappeared, a flash of blood appeared on the sea snake's body. A huge pain made the sea snake roar, pulling him out of the illusion just now. The sea snake kept struggling on the beach, its tail lashing the ground heavily. And yellow sand filled the sky for a while. Ling Youdao's sword just now pierced the sea snake's vital point. Even if it didn't die, it would definitely be seriously injured and it would be impossible to withstand the next blow. Seeing this, Ling Youdao said, "Youdao, why did you kill it so quickly? It was not easy to encounter a second-level monster. I wanted to play with it for a while, but now you killed it." Ling Youdao has been building his foundation for nearly 30 years, and he is not far from the middle stage of the foundation. He has also practiced a bodybuilding technique of hammer forging, and his strength is even stronger than that of ordinary middle-stage cultivators of the foundation. With his strength, how could a second-level inferior sea snake be his opponent? If Ling Youdao intended to kill it, this sea snake would never be able to easily pull away the mountain-shaking hammer. Second uncle, it is better to kill it immediately, so as to avoid unexpected changes and let it escape. Hearing this, Ling Youdao nodded, "That's right." Then the sea snake rolled less and less, and it stopped after a while. "Brother Youdao, this monster is not dead yet, I know." The yin-yang zhuangguang sword stabbed the sea snake again. This time the sea snake could not dodge and was directly killed by the sword. The battle was over. The beach was the body of the sea snake, and the sea was the body of many creatures, including some first-level, middle and upper-grade monsters. They were all belly up and back down, obviously poisoned by the dark green liquid. The treasure ship came quickly, but because the water at the beach was too shallow, it stopped in the sea. Ling Youdao brought 4 key training monks to the body of the sea snake on the sword. Looking at the body of the sea snake in front of them, the 4 key training monks couldn't help but say in shock, "What a powerful monster snake." Ling Youdao said, "This is a silver-necked sea snake. Its poison is very toxic. Even if a giant monk is poisoned, he will die if he does not get timely treatment." Hearing this, Ling Youdao nodded on the side. This is indeed a silver-necked sea snake. The silver-necked sea snake is famous for its venom. The many dead bodies of creatures floating on the sea are the best proof of this. However, before it could take advantage, it fell into Mu Yanran's illusion, and Ling Youdao took the opportunity to stab it in the vital spot. It was instantly seriously injured, and was unable to resist the subsequent attacks, so it was easily killed by everyone. Of course, facing so many foundation-building monks, even if he wanted to resist, it would be futile. Hurry up and carry the entire silver-necked sea snake back. This is the corpse of a second-level monster, which is worth a lot of spirit stones, so everyone naturally wants to take it away. After the 4 key training monks dealt with it a little, Ling Youdao, Ling Youdao, and Ling Youdao worked together, cast a spell to lift the silver-necked sea snake, and flew towards the treasure ship with their swords. Soon, everyone arrived at a treasure ship, and the corpse of the silver-necked sea snake was sent to the lower level of the treasure ship. The lower level of the treasure ship seems small, but in fact, the internal space is very large. Not to mention the corpse of a second-level monster, Even more than a dozen second-level monsters can be accommodated. Afterwards, the sea ship continued to sail westward, encountering many first-level monsters along the way, and everyone hunted and killed a lot of them. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, more than half a year has passed. At this time, the lower level of the treasure ship has been loaded with a second-level upper-grade monster corpse, 3 second-level middle-grade monster corpses, and 9 second-level lower-grade monster corpses, a total of 13 second-level monster corpses. In addition, a large number of first-level monsters were hunted, but the flesh and blood of the first-level monsters were not taken, only the useful materials from the first-level monsters were taken. Ling Youdao suddenly said, "Look, there is another second-level monster." Ling Dingshan asked in confusion, "Why did we encounter 3 second-level monsters in a row today? They all look like they are running in the same direction." Ling Youdao, who was silent for a long time, said, "Have you noticed that these monsters are actually running for their lives? Running for their lives? Yes, they are running for their lives. I didn't think so before, but after he said that, the monsters encountered today seem to be running for their lives." When Ling Youdao wanted to say something else, he saw Ling Yuangu's face suddenly changed as he looked ahead, and he said in horror, "Red Tide." Chapter 205, Fierce Red Tide, Fleeing All the Way. Everyone was frightened by Ling Yuangu's sudden change. When they were about to ask, Ling Yuangu immediately shouted, "Quick, quick, run back quickly." His words were full of anxiety and panic, as if he had encountered something terrible. The younger generation of the family who was controlling the sea ship heard his urgency from his voice, and they must have felt that something big had happened. Otherwise Ling Yuangu, the elder of the Cangli Ling family and a late-stage foundation-building cultivator, would never be so panicked. So he immediately turned the steering wheel, and the treasure ship turned around in the sea. A person next to him pinched the magic formula with his hand to control the speed of the treasure ship. When the treasure ship rotated close to a semicircle, the speed of the treasure ship increased sharply under his control and flew backwards. At this time, the younger generation of the key training period standing next to him dared to ask, "Elder, what is the red tide?" The North Sea is huge. Although the red tide erupts every few decades, the area of each eruption is different, and the scope of the impact is also different, so not every cultivator knows it. The Liuyan Islands have not had a red tide for nearly 1,000 years, and the northern section of the Thousand Islands chain only had a small-scale red tide 700 years ago, and it was still far away from the Liuyan Islands. Therefore, it is normal for these younger generations in the key training period not to know about the red tide and not to understand how terrible it is. However, at this time, Ling Yuangu was focused on the red tide behind him, worried that he and others would be drowned by the red tide and directly wiped out in the 10,000 Islands chain. He glanced at the 4 people and said, "Youdao, you come and tell them what the red tide is." After saying that, he immediately turned his head and looked at the red tide behind him. Hearing this, Ling Youdao calmed down a little. Then he said, "The red tide is a terrible disaster. From the Jindan true person to every key training cultivator, there are examples of being killed and swallowed by the red tide. Perhaps only the powerful Yuanying ancestors can be immune to the damage of the red tide." Hiss, everyone took a breath of cold air. There is actually an example of a Jindan true person falling under the red tide, then we are doomed. Everyone's face was full of worry, but they could do nothing. Red tide, as the name implies, is a red tide. But this is not a tide made up of water, but a tide formed by countless red leeches. The word red means red, and the word light means that there is no trace of any living creatures wherever the red leeches pass, and they are all eaten by the red leeches. It only takes 3 months for red leeches to hatch and die. During these 3 months, they need to complete 3 things: hurry up to gather with more red leeches, find a partner to mate, and finally leave to find a suitable place to lay eggs. In the first month of life, red leeches will move in one direction. Unless they encounter a large land, they will not detour for anything. When countless red leeches move in one direction, they look like a line of red tide from a distance, so the cultivation world calls it a red tide. Perhaps the limited brain capacity forces them to think that detours will increase time, so they are unwilling to detour and move in a straight line, which will greatly reduce the time required. I don't know how they figured out the shortest straight line between 2 points with their brain capacity. Of course, the shortest distance between 2 points in the world of immortal cultivation is the distorted space, that is, the 2 points overlapped, and the teleportation array is the best proof. Long-distance travel, fertilization, egg laying, etc. all require a lot of energy, and the energy in the newly hatched red light leeches is scarce. In order to complete their tasks, they need to absorb a lot of energy in a short time. Therefore, the red light leeches will devour creatures along the way, whether they are plants in the sea, animals, or even monsters. As long as they are living things, they are on their menu. They have the ability to break the ban, and can easily break the protective band on the sea ship, and then rush into the interior of the sea ship, swallowing the people inside without even a bone. Facing the red light leeches, the key training cultivators have almost no room to fight back and can only become their food. Even if the foundation building cultivators have the ability to fly, they cannot be spared, because the red light leeches have excellent vision and jumping ability, and can prey on creatures 200 or 300 feet above the sea. The strong ones among them can even jump up to 500 feet. Of course, what really makes people feel desperate is not the ability of the red leeches, but their huge number that is almost impossible to kill. When facing food and creatures that stand in their way, no matter how powerful the opponent is, they will not be afraid at all, but will rush forward one after another. Because of this, the red tide formed by the red leeches is dangerous, and even the strong Jindan's henren can fall in their mouths. When entering the second month, multiple red leech colonies gather together to form a larger colony, often spreading over dozens of miles of sea areas, or even hundreds of miles of sea areas. In the next month, they will look for partners to fertilize from countless of their kind. When entering the last month of their lives, the red leeches that gather together will leave one after another. The colony becomes smaller and smaller, and finally only individuals are left, distributed throughout the North Sea. They look for a suitable place to lay eggs, and then bury their eggs in the mud on the seabed. After completing the task, they will die quietly beside the eggs. When will the eggs of the red leech hatch into new red leeches? No one can say for sure. For tens of thousands of years, there has been no regular pattern in the appearance of red tides. Perhaps there is, but it has not been discovered by human monks. Therefore, every time a red tide breaks out, it will cause great losses to human monks. Few ships that encounter red tides in the sea can come back alive. When the eggs in the mud are hatched, the new red leeches born will use the mother's body as the first food, and then repeat what the ancestors did, which will be another new continuation. Seeing that the red tide is getting closer and closer to the treasure ship, Ling Youdao said, "Escape to other places will only lead to death. If you want to survive, you can only return to Jindan Island." Ling Youdao hurriedly said, "Only by returning to Jindan Island can you survive. Jindan Island is not in front of the treasure ship, but in front of it. If you go to Jindan Island instead, the distance between the treasure ship and the red tide will be shortened. If they could reach Jindan Island before the red tide came, it would be fine. But if the red tide flooded the treasure ship first, then everyone would have no choice but to die." So, this was also a big risk. And the fact proved that there were more than just a few smart people. On the way to Jindan Island, they encountered many ships, all of which were targeting Jindan Island. Some of these ships were in front of Cangli Ling's treasure ship, and more were behind Cangli Ling's treasure ship. Everyone stood at the stern, looking in the direction of the red tide, watching more and more ships being submerged by the red tide. Chapter 206, A Lucky Escape, Huge Losses. But when everyone looked at the stern, they felt that time was passing very fast, but when they looked at the bow, they felt that time was passing very slowly. The speed of time actually has not changed, but the different moods of everyone have led to different feelings. If this continues, we will be swallowed by the red tide before we reach Jindan Island. A junior in the key training period held his head and said very worriedly. Everyone knew his words very well. Ling Youdao looked at Ling Youdao and asked, "Grandpa, do you want to abandon the treasure ship and fly directly to Jindan Island? Although the speed of the treasure ship is fast, it is not as fast as the speed of the foundation building cultivator flying the sword. According to the current situation, if everyone flies the sword to hurry, the red tide will definitely not catch up. But in that case, not only will they not hunt down the monster, but they will also abandon the family's treasure ship. For the current Cangli Ling family, the loss caused by the abandonment of a treasure ship that can cross from the 1,000 Islands chain to the 10,000 Islands chain is very huge. In the current situation of the Cangli Ling family, there is no ability to build a new one." Ling Youdao frowned and said helplessly, "Let's see the situation first. We must not abandon this treasure ship unless it is absolutely necessary." Ling Youdao nodded. He also understood the importance of this treasure ship to the family. To be honest, he didn't want to abandon it in vain. This is the only way now. He walked to Mu Yanran and said, Yanran, don't worry, we will definitely be fine this time. Yeah, time passed, and the red tide was getting closer and closer to the treasure ship. Many ships behind were submerged by the red tide. At the same time, many foundation-building monks flew away from their ships on their swords and rushed to Jindan Island as quickly as possible. The flesh and blood of foundation-building monks contain a lot of spiritual power, which is definitely a great tonic for the red light leeches. They flew in the sky with their swords, just like a bright light suddenly lit up in the dark night, which immediately attracted a large number of red light leeches. Then red ribbons were seen shooting towards the foundation-building monks in the sky, and the foundation-building monks in the air were not people who would sit and wait for death. They all used their spiritual weapons to attack the red leeches that were rushing towards them. That's right, the reason why the red ribbon shot into the air was because many red leeches jumped towards the foundation-building monks in the air. The defense ability of the red leeches was not high. Not to mention the foundation-building monks, even the monks at the first level of key training could kill them. Therefore, the attacks of the foundation-building monks always killed a large number of them in one blow. But the more they killed, the more red leeches came, and they could not kill them all even if they tried. Gradually, some foundation-building monks were wrapped up by the red tide. There was only time to hear a scream, and then the red leeches that wrapped the foundation-building monks fell to the sea surface, but there was not even a bone left in the original place. The sea is wide, but screams can still be heard every once in a while. On the treasure ship, everyone watching this scene was filled with sorrow. The screams made the key training monks of the Cangli clan tremble in their hearts. The foundation-building monks had only one way to go when facing the red tide, so was there any hope for them? This was the question in the minds of every key training monk. Seeing that Ling Youdao had not made a decision yet, Ling Youdao said anxiously, Grandpa, make a decision quickly. Ling Dingshan also said, yes, if we don't abandon the treasure ship and escape now, we won't be able to escape later. The death of so many foundation-building monks is the best lesson for us. They chose to stay when they could escape, hoping for a miracle to happen, but when they found out that a miracle could not happen later, they wanted to escape but couldn't. Hearing this, Ling Youdao waved his hand helplessly and said, everyone listen, abandon the treasure ship, and immediately fly away from here on a sword and return to the Golden Dragon Island. Each of us will bring 2 key training monks. During the 6 months of the key, 3 key training monks of the Cangli clan were killed by monsters in the process of hunting monsters. Now there are only 10 key training monks on the treasure ship, and the 5 foundation-building monks each take 2, which is exactly 10 key training monks. Okay, everyone responded in unison without any hesitation. Ling Youdao said hurriedly, Yanran, you take the 2 of them, and I'll take the 2, yes, hurry up and get on board. In just 2 or 3 breaths, the 10 key training monks stood on the spiritual instruments of the 5 foundation-building monks. Let's go. Then they saw the 5 spiritual instruments carrying 15 people quickly flew out of the treasure ship and headed for the Golden Dragon Island. Although everyone was full of reluctance, they had no other choice in this situation. Just when everyone was thinking heavily, a red light flew from afar, and its speed was faster than that of the Jindan monks. Seeing this, Ling Youdao and the other 5 were immediately shocked and said, Nascent soul ancestor. Then they saw several red light balls fly into the red tide first, and exploded in the center of the red tide. Countless red light leeches were blown to pieces, or burned to death by the high temperature. Several large holes appeared inside the red tide, but they were soon filled by the red light leeches that came later. The red light flew to the sky above the red tide, and after disappearing, a figure was revealed. The man looked like a strong man, with long black and white hair. With him as the center, a powerful aura was formed, which pressed down a large area of the red tide. Facing the pressure from the newcomer, the red light leeches were fearless and jumped up and pounced on the man. For them, the Yuanying cultivator was a huge energy reservoir, and they would never give up. In this way, a long red river suddenly appeared in the sky, and the long river quickly extended towards the man in the sky. Humph, you are looking for death, the man snorted coldly, and a river of fire suddenly rushed over. Then, he raised his big hand upwards, the sea vibrated, and the seawater rose upwards, forming a wave that spread for dozens of miles. The wave pounced on the red tide, and the red tide was overturned by the wave, and retreated for at least 100 miles. Seeing this scene, Ling Youdao and others were greatly encouraged. Ling Youdao said, let's go back to the treasure ship, okay? With the Yuanying patriarch here, Everyone felt relieved. The treasure ship was shaking violently in the ups and downs of the sea. After the 15 people returned with their swords, they immediately controlled the treasure ship and headed towards Jinjiao Island. However, the red tide that was repelled by the waves did not give up. They continued to move in the previous direction and still pounced on the Yuanying patriarch in the air fearlessly. 3 days later, the treasure ship returned to Jinjiao Island smoothly. However, Jinjiao Island was under full martial law at this time, as if it was ready for battle. Although the red tide would bypass Jinjiao Island, it might also be attracted by the high-level cultivators on the island and pounce on Jinjiao Island and devour the cultivators on the island. The treasure ship stopped at the berth, and everyone got off the ship and boarded Jinjiao Island. Many cultivators gathered at the port, most of whom had just escaped. The words that everyone heard most often were, "The loss this time is too great." In this regard, the people of Cangli Ling's family couldn't help but feel fortunate. Chapter 207 The 5 Holy Places in Xianyuan Realm and the 3 Yuanyings in Jinjiafang City. An hour later, 3 different colored escape lights shot towards Jinjiao Island from the east, south and west. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but say, "Nascent Soul Ancestor." Most people smiled, thinking that with the protection of the Nascent Soul Ancestor, they would be as stable as Mount Tai. But there were still a few people with gloomy faces, because they realized a terrible thing. Ling Youdao pondered and said, "The 3 nascent soul ancestors who are in charge of Jinjiao Island are all out. It seems that this red tide is extraordinary." As soon as these words came out, the faces of the surrounding Cangli Ling family cultivators suddenly sank, and they immediately realized this terrible problem. Ling Youdao nodded and said, "Yes, you observed it very carefully. He has also lived for more than 100 years, and has seen more people and encountered more things than Ling Youdao. Since Ling Youdao can see through this kind of problem, Ling Youdao can naturally see through it. Grandpa, what should we do now? The larger the scale of the red tide, the greater its demand for energy. This is an iron law. If the creatures on the way cannot give them enough energy, they may indeed attack the islands with high-level monks and strong defense. Jinjiao Island is right on the way of the red tide, and there are many monks on the island. For the red light leeches, it is like the moon in the middle of the night, which is very attractive. Although this island is large, the crazy red light leeches may not rush up one after another. According to records, in the history of Xianyuan Realm, a red tide that swept across an area broke out. The huge red tide turned the entire sea into a dead area with almost no life. But even so, the red tide still lacks energy. In order to obtain sufficient energy, the red tide actually chose to attack the Middle Earth continent. The center of Xianyuan Realm is a continent called the Middle Earth continent. The continent can be divided into 5 domains according to different regions, namely Hongzhou, Dongjiang, Bingwen, Zhihuang, and Nans. The Middle Earth continent is surrounded by seas and can be divided into 4 domains according to different regions, namely the East China Sea, the South China Sea, the West China Sea, and the North China Sea. In this way, the Xianyuan Realm has a total of 9 domains. Because the scale of the red tide was so large, many powerful people were born from the countless red leeches, whose strength was comparable to that of Jindan's Henren, and some red leeches even reached the level of Yuanying cultivators. Red leeches were constantly hatched and then laid eggs, and the eggs immediately hatched new red leeches. There were endless, and they could not be killed no matter how hard they tried. The 5 major immortal cultivation holy places in the Middle Earth continent joined forces with the cultivators of the human and demon races in the entire Xianyuan realm, and it took 3 years to suppress the red tide. Although it was only 3 years, it was unknown how many Yuanying cultivators died in the battle, and even many Shenhe cultivators died. In the end, if it were not for the powerful Liangsa from the 5 major holy places, who risked being rejected by the world and showed up in the world, and used great magical powers to suppress the red tide, it is unknown how long it would have lasted. After this incident, the cultivators of the entire Xianyuan realm knew the foundation of the 5 major holy places, and understood why the 5 major holy places could survive to this day, no matter how time changes. Because the 5 holy places have a fighting power that surpasses the Xianyuan realm, as long as such existences are not extinct, the 5 holy places will always be the strongest forces in the Xianyuan realm and cannot be surpassed. Only new forces can emerge to be on par with the 5 holy places. However, with the passage of time, the war that mobilized the entire Xianyuan realm has been buried in the long river of history. Not many people really know about it, but the unshakable strength of the 5 holy places has been passed down by word of mouth. 3 escape lights flew to the sky above the Jinjiafang city, and after the spiritual light dissipated, 3 Taoists were revealed. The one on the left looked like a big man, with long black and white hair scattered. He was the Yuanying ancestor who had raised his hand to summon dozens of miles of waves and repelled the fierce red tide for more than 100 miles. This person was named Su Meng, also known as the Liang ancestor. He was a Yuanying cultivator of the Cherry sect, and his cultivation had reached the early stage of the Yuanying. The person on the right was dressed like a palace lady, with long hair like ink on top of her head. Although she was not stunningly beautiful, she gave people a feeling of being in a high position for a long time and being unattainable. This person was called Nangong Yan, also known as Fujing Patriarch, and was a Yuanying cultivator of Xiangxuan sect, whose cultivation had also reached the early stage of Yuanying. In the middle was a white-haired old man, whose hair was meticulously combed neatly, with a 3-inch white beard, and his eyes were cold, making people dare not look directly at him. This person was called Xiao Zhushan, also known as Yuncheng Patriarch, and was a Yuanying cultivator of Ziyin sect, whose cultivation was the highest among the 3, reaching the middle stage of Yuanying. The 3 Yuanying patriarchs stood on the air, with no calmness or ease on their faces, but frowns. Immediately activate the formation on the island, and everyone retreat to the island to guard against the incoming red tide. These words turned into 3 spiritual lights that flew to the sky above the center of Jinjiao Island, and then echoed across the entire island. This voice spread across the entire Golden Dragon Island. Even if one was far away from the Yuanying ancestor who was speaking, it sounded as if it was being spoken in one's ear. Words come true, this is a Yuanying cultivator. Ancestor Yuncheng said to the 2, the 3 of us will have to work harder and keep an eye on the movements of the red tide in 3 directions. The red tide may only hit Golden Dragon Island. As for whether it will really hit Golden Dragon Island, it depends on the follow-up situation. In this case, intelligence is particularly important. If a Jindan cultivator goes there, it will be like throwing meat buns at a dog, so the Yuanying cultivator has to monitor the movements of the red tide in person. If something unexpected happens, it will be solved immediately. Okay, Ancestor Liang and Ancestor Fujing nodded slightly, and then the 3 of them disappeared at the same time, and arrived outside Golden Dragon Island in the blink of an eye. Teleportation. This is a Yuanying cultivator. At the port below, Ling Youdao sighed and said, it's really a troubled time. This red tide that only occurs once in thousands of years has even been encountered by my Cangli Ling clan. It is said that once a person is unlucky, he can even choke to death when drinking water. Ling Youdao feels this way now. In just over a decade, the Cangli Ling clan has encountered so many dangers, narrowly escaped death several times, and almost suffered a great loss of strength several times. This time it happened again. If Ling Youdao and others were all buried on the Golden Dragon Island, the Cangli Ling clan would have lost 5 foundation-building cultivators, and 4 of them were still young. It is inevitable that their strength will be greatly reduced. Grandpa, I think we should quickly transfer the corpses of the monsters on the treasure ship and the various materials from the first-level monsters. Without these things as a trigger, even if the red tide hits the Golden Dragon Island, it will not attack the treasure ship. Ling Youdao nodded. What you said makes sense. Then he said, everyone, quickly transfer the corpses of the monsters in the lower layer of the treasure ship. Yes, everyone responded in unison and immediately started to act. Ling Youdao was not the only smart person. They had been hunting monsters for many years and were very experienced. When they encountered this situation, they immediately began to move the living and dead creatures on their ship. When the others saw the behavior of this group of people, they quickly realized the benefits of doing so they also followed suit and moved the things on their ships. Chapter 208 Ling Yaoxin Sword Monument. There were many corpses of monsters. In order to move them as quickly as possible, many people hired temporary helpers. But they might have to go through a big battle later, and it was really inconvenient to carry so many corpses of monsters. So many people sold the corpses of monsters and various materials cut from the corpses of monsters to the shops in the market. There is no profit without early rise. This is the nature of businessmen, and the merchants in the world of immortal cultivation are also like this. They took such a big risk to purchase the corpses of monsters, etc., so naturally they had to keep the price very low. What? This price is more than 30% lower than normal. Facing the question of this customer, the shopkeeper said impatiently, Don't you see that it is still normal now? The red tide may hit Jinjiao Island at any time. It is hard to say whether it can be defended. We are buying the corpses of the monsters in your hands at this time to facilitate you. We are taking a great risk, so the price is naturally low, but your price is too low, isn't it? It's simply robbery. The shopkeeper was obviously impatient with the question, and waved his hand and said, if you want to sell, sell it. If you don't want to sell, take it away quickly and don't block others. Hearing this, the man gritted his teeth and said, sell it. The shopkeeper smiled complacently. Wouldn't it be better if you were so quick earlier? This scene happened everywhere in Jinjiafang City. Even though the shops lowered the prices a lot, people still went to the shops to sell. There was no way, because if these things were kept in their hands, not only would there be no benefit, but it would drag them down. The people of Cangli Ling's family also suffered such exploitation. While everyone was moving the corpses of the monsters and selling them in the market, a layer of aqua blue light curtain quietly rose and gradually enveloped the entire Jinjiao Island. On that layer of aqua blue light curtain, there were arcs of electricity flashing, making the light curtain covering the entire Jinjiao Island even more colorful. The strategic location of Jinjiao Island is too important, and it is the command center of the Eastern human race in the 10,000 Islands chain, which cannot be lost. Therefore, a fourth-level medium-grade formation was arranged on this island, named the Mysterious Thunder Heaven Shaking Formation. Lightning spreads through seawater, not only has a comprehensive and huge attack range, but also has a good attack power. In addition to the good attack power, the defense ability is also very strong. This formation can gather the surrounding seawater together and wrap the entire Jinjiao Island, which can greatly increase the safety factor of Jinjiao Island. These people are just taking advantage of the fire to rob, Ling Dingshan said angrily, and the surrounding Cangli Ling family monks were also indignant. Yes, the spiritual stones obtained are much less than normal. Ling Youdao has long been accustomed to this. Any force would do this, including the Cangli Ling clan, which had done such a thing in Guanglifang City, but now was different from the past. It was Cangli Ling clan's turn to be slaughtered by other forces. Well, those things are also a problem now. It's okay to sell them. What we need now is stability. It doesn't matter if we make less money, yeah. Outside Jinjiao Island. The red tide was getting closer and closer to Jinjiao Island, but no one dared to be sure whether the red tide would hit Jinjiao Island. The faces of the Yuanying ancestors in the three directions were extremely solemn. As the red tide got closer and closer to Jinjiao Island, the three people were constantly retreating. The cultivators on the island could clearly see the red tide like waves in the distance, coming towards Jinjiao Island. Go around, don't hit Jinjiao Island, many people prayed silently in their hearts. After another half an hour, the three Yuanying ancestors had retreated to the sky above Jinjiao Island. Here it comes, following the words of the ancestor Yunshen, the red tide like waves rushed towards Jinjiao Island. It collided with the light curtain of the Mysterious Thunder Shaking Heaven Formation, making a loud bang. Hearing this sound, everyone's heart trembled. When Patriarch Yunsheng was about to activate the Mysterious Thunder Shaking Heaven Formation, the red tide followed the edge of the Golden Dragon Island and went to the north. Seeing this scene, everyone on the island laughed in relief, and the three Yuanying patriarchs in the sky also breathed a sigh of relief. It went around, the red tide did not hit the Golden Dragon Island. Great, heaven will not destroy me. The next moment, Patriarch Yunsheng said, immediately activate the Mysterious Thunder Shaking Heaven Formation. Okay, then the three Yuanying patriarchs each took out a jade ball and threw it into the air in front of them. The three jade balls flew up in a rotation, and merged into one in the air to form a jade plate. The three Yuanying patriarchs pinched the magic formula with their hands at the same time, and the jade plate rotated at high speed, shooting a beam of light upwards from the hole in the center, and also shooting a beam of light downwards. Then the sky was changing, and soon it was covered with dark clouds. There were bursts of thunder and countless arcs flashing. Then a beam of lightning shot down and was introduced into the Zuanlei Shaking Heaven Formation through the jade pendant. Then countless arcs of lightning flashed and flowed on the light curtain of the Zuanlei Shaking Heaven Formation. Then it was transmitted into the sea, with Jinjiao Island as the center, and the area of 100 miles seemed to become a thunder lake. Countless red light leeches were electrocuted to death, and a large open area was cleared in an instant. However, the red light leeches seemed to be stupid, still moving north along the original path, and would not change direction even if they died. In the southeast of the North Sea, there is a Gijian mountain with a height of 999 feet. It is rumored that it is the Taoist temple of the people of Gijian Mountain before they ascended. On the top of the mountain, there is a stone tablet that is 9 feet high, 3 feet wide, and 1 foot thick. It is unknown what material it is made of. Even the Yuanying cultivator cannot leave a mark on it. But there are 9 scratches on the stone tablet, each of which exudes an extremely powerful sword intent, so it is called a sword tablet. Even the nascent soul cultivators who have experienced the heart demon tribulation dare not get too close, otherwise they will be affected by the sword intent on the sword tablet, which will cause their Taoism to be unstable at best. Or even directly cause their heart demons to burst out and die in the heart demon tribulation. Such a dangerous place is the holy land of the sword cultivators in the North Sea. Sword cultivators from different places want to climb to the top of Gijian Mountain and experience the sword intent left on the sword tablet up close. There is a saying in the North Sea that those who do not see the sword tablet are not real sword cultivators. After leaving Liuan Islands, Ling Youdao began to travel around the North Sea from the northern section of the Thousand Islands chain. He has been to the Thousand Islands chain, the 10,000 Islands chain, and the 10,000 Poison Sea. Later, he went to Wufang City to learn from the young talents in the North Sea, and now his goal is the sword tablet on the top of Gijian Mountain. Gijian Mountain is extremely steep, and it looks like a pillar from a distance. But the monks of Bihai built a circular staircase around Gijian Mountain, leading to the sword monument on the top of the mountain. When Ling Youdao arrived, he saw many monks sitting cross-legged on the ground at the foot of Gijian Mountain. Another monk suddenly stood up, walked up a distance, and then sat cross-legged on the stairs. Seeing this, Ling Youdao carried the broken water sword on his back and climbed up against the sword intent emanating from the sword monument on the top of the mountain. One step, and another step, leaving behind a series of exclamations. Chapter 209, Step after step, surprise after surprise. There are countless stone steps from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain. Every few steps, you can always see someone sitting cross-legged on the ground. When these people sensed someone walking by them, they all showed surprised expressions on their faces. The sword intent from the top of the mountain enveloped the entire Gijian Mountain, affecting the minds of the climbers. Ling Youdao sword heart was firm, and he never bowed his head even if this sword intent was strong. I have my own sword path. Although this sword intent is strong, it can't destroy my sword heart. There are definitely many sword cultivators on Gijian Mountain, but there are very few people who really have their own sword path. And more people don't have their own sword path. They choose to comprehend the sword intent from the top of the mountain and turn it into their own sword path. It can't be said that this is bad, it can only be said that the two paths have their own merits. Choosing to inherit the sword path of the predecessors will make the sword path go more smoothly, but there are great limitations. Because others is others after all, even if you comprehend it and use it for yourself, you can't make it completely fit with yourself. This kind of sword path has an upper limit. Of course, only a very few people will reach this upper limit, and it is almost impossible to surpass this upper limit. Unaffected by the outside world, walk out your own sword path. This road has no upper limit and has infinite possibilities. But because there is no template for predecessors, it will be more difficult to walk along this road. Although Ling Youdao climbed the mountain slowly, he never stopped. Even if it was windy and rainy, his steps never stopped. Spring went and autumn came, and a year passed in a blink of an eye. He finally climbed to the top of Gijian Mountain. There was a large square on the top of the mountain. In the center of the square stood a sword monument. More than 30 people were seen sitting around the sword monument. Some were far away from the sword monument, and some were close to the sword monument. Among them were key training monks, Jindan monks, and more were foundation building monks. Among these people, 5 people were particularly eye-catching, and they actually sat cross-legged next to the sword monument. The sword monument is very helpful for sword cultivators to comprehend the sword path, but it is also a big killer. If the sword path cultivation is not enough and the sword heart is not firm enough, approaching the sword monument is to seek death. The 5 people dared to sit cross-legged beside the sword monument, which showed that their sword skills were not bad. Feeling the aura emanating from the 5 people, Ling Youdao roughly guessed that the 3 people closer to the sword monument were Jindan cultivators, and the 2 slightly inferior ones were foundation building cultivators. The moment he appeared, everyone in the square looked over, with a slight surprise in their eyes. The 5 people beside the sword monument just opened their eyes and took a look, then closed their eyes, no longer caring about this newcomer. But someone said, the 36th person. There were originally 35 people in the field, and including the new Ling Youdao, there were exactly 36 people. No one responded, and the square soon fell into silence again. Although few people can reach the top of the mountain, there is still one person every few years. Everyone was already accustomed to Ling Youdao arrival. He glanced at the people in the square, and then walked towards the sword monument. Soon, a cultivator at the outermost edge showed a shocked expression. What? I have been on the top of the mountain to see the sword monument for 7 years, and I dared to be 8.5 feet away from the sword monument just now. This person just came to the top of the mountain and dared to get so close to the sword monument. He really doesn't know his own limits. You will suffer later. Although the voice was very small, the scene was very quiet. All the cultivators present were cultivators, so they could hear it clearly. Then all the cultivators 5 feet away from the sword monument opened their eyes instantly, turned their heads and stared at Ling Youdao, who was walking steadily. This newcomer is a bit interesting. Ling Youdao didn't care about the looks from everyone. This kid, he's still moving forward. While he was talking, he had already surpassed the second person, and still had no intention of stopping. Next, the third person was surpassed, the fourth person was surpassed, the fifth person was surpassed. Ling Youdao was getting closer and closer to the sword monument, which also attracted the attention and shock of more people. Who is this person? A newcomer who just reached the top of the mountain can actually get so close to the sword monument. Is he another sword genius? This person's sword talent is very high. The discussions did not affect Ling Youdao, nor did they affect the 5 people sitting cross-legged next to the sword monument. To them, Ling Youdao current performance was only much better than other newcomers, and was not worthy of their attention. Hiss, 5 feet, this person has entered the 5-foot radius of the sword monument, 1 step, another step. 4.5 feet, do you think this person will enter the 3-foot radius of the sword monument? Hearing this, someone said, it's impossible. When Taoist Yiming first climbed to the top of the mountain, he only entered the 3-foot radius of the sword monument. This person's sword talent is indeed high, but he should not be comparable to Taoist Yiming, right? Someone next to him nodded and said, I also think it's impossible for this person to enter the 3-foot radius of the sword monument. A person not far away frowned and said, not necessarily. Seeing this person's steady steps and no sign of effort, it is really possible for him to enter the 3-foot radius of the sword monument. Taoist Ji is right, I think so too. Except for the 5 people next to the sword monument and Ling Youdao, everyone in the field stopped comprehending the sword meaning on the sword monument and discussed whether Ling Youdao could enter the 3-foot radius of the sword monument. When Ling Youdao stepped into the 4-foot radius of the sword monument, a young man sitting cross-legged next to the sword monument finally couldn't help but open his eyes. When he stepped into the 3.5-meter radius of the sword monument, another young man who was sitting cross-legged beside the sword monument also opened his eyes full of curiosity about Ling Youdao. 1 step, just 1 more step, he will be within the 30-meter radius of the sword monument. Step. The extremely light sound of the foot landing was like thunder in everyone's ears. Really within the 30-meter radius of the sword monument. Hiss, this is another sword genius comparable to Shen Yiming. When Ling Youdao stepped into the 30-meter radius of the sword monument, the 3 old men closest to the sword monument opened their eyes instantly and stared at Ling Youdao, as if they had found a piece of fine unpolished jade. But the old man on the left smiled and said, it's my turn to accept my second son as my apprentice. Immediately, everyone stopped talking, because they wanted to see how many meters Ling Youdao could enter into the sword monument. 2.5 zhang, 2 zhang, 1 zhang. It's more than 1 battle. When fellow Taoist Yu Chen first came here, he didn't reach this height. He actually surpassed fellow Taoist Yu Chen. Seeing this, the old man sitting cross-legged on the left smiled more and more, and couldn't help but smiled proudly. Well, I didn't expect that I was the last one to walk, and I actually picked up a treasure. However, Ling Youdao did not stop, and continued to approach the sword monument. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210, A Rare Swordsmanship Genius. Ling Youdao approached the sword monument in the astonishment of everyone, and then sat cross-legged beside the sword monument. The place was extremely quiet, with only the sound of air entering and leaving the nostrils. The three old men sitting cross-legged beside the sword monument were the first to react, their eyes full of excitement. The old man on the left immediately said, "My friend, you can get close to the sword monument on your first step on Jindan Mountain. You have a very high talent in swordsmanship." After these words came out, everyone in the place reacted, and the eyes they looked at Ling Youdao were very different from before. Shock, envy, admiration, jealousy, extremely complicated. It is not that people with strong cultivation can get close to the sword monument, but only those who have a deep understanding of swordsmanship can get close to the sword monument. There was a Yuanying ancestor who forced himself to get close to the sword monument, but was confused by the sword intent on the monument. If he had not retreated in time, he would have been lost in the heart demon calamity and could not extricate himself. Because of this incident, the sword monument's reputation and notoriety are known outside, and cultivators other than sword cultivators are unwilling to get close to Jindan Mountain. Ling Youdao ability to get close to the sword monument shows that he has a deep understanding of the sword. Hearing this, Ling Youdao stood up and bowed to the three elders respectfully, saying, "Junior Ling Youdao, meet the three seniors." After all, the three were Jindan's Henren, and Ling Youdao was just a foundation-building cultivator. It was normal for him to respect the three. But the young man who opened his eyes first among the five sneered, "Although you are genius in the sword, you can be named as an immortal, which is too arrogant." The person who spoke was the Taoist friend Yiming mentioned by everyone before. His full name is Shen Yiming. When he first climbed back to Jianshan, he entered the 3 zang radius of the sword monument and was appreciated by the old man on the right and accepted as his close disciple. Now he is a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building. He comprehended the sword power a few years ago, and his strength is comparable to that of a fake Danzhenren. If he is allowed to settle down for some time, I am afraid that he can fight against Jindan cultivators with his foundation building cultivation. His words were immediately supported by 7 or 8 people. Fellow Taoist Yiming is right. Even the Yuanying ancestors dare not use the word Youdao as their name. Although this person is a genius in swordsmanship, he does not know etiquette and is too arrogant. The old man sitting cross-legged on the right said, "Yiming is right. It is indeed inappropriate to use the word Youdao as his name." The old man on the left immediately said, "It's just a name. Why is there so much to pay attention to?" The old man on the right waved his hand. Otherwise, the old man on the left said angrily, "Mr. Son, I finally met a good disciple, but you and your disciples teamed up to find trouble with him. What's the meaning?" It turned out that the old man on the right was named Sun Yingzheng, a cultivator in the middle stage of the golden core. This person had already comprehended the sword force hundreds of years ago, but he had never been able to comprehend the sword meaning. His strength was even stronger than that of the cultivators in the late golden core stage, and Shen Yiming was his last disciple. Sun Yingzheng said with a smile, "Brother Hu, I just have good intentions and want to remind this junior, is there anyone who reminds me like that?" The old man on the left is named Hu Beiquan, also a cultivator in the middle stage of the golden core. He had already comprehended the sword force hundreds of years ago, and his strength is comparable to that of Sun Yingzhen. The old man in the middle is named Su Su, a cultivator in the late stage of the golden core. He has already touched the threshold of the sword intent, and his strength is the highest among the three. He once fought against the Liang patriarch of the Red Sun sect with a cultivation of the late stage of the golden core. The two fought for a whole day and night, and the sky was dark, but it was hard to tell who was better. As for the young man at the end, his name is Yu Chen, Su Su's last disciple, a cultivator in the late stage of the foundation establishment. He comprehended the sword force a year earlier than Shen Yiming, and he was able to truly fight against the golden core true person with a cultivation of the late stage of the foundation establishment. Yu Chen is different from Su Su, Sun Yingzheng, Hu Beiquan, and Shen Yiming. The latter 4 people observed and comprehended the sword intent on the sword monument and used the sword way on the monument for their own use. Like Ling Youdao, he followed his own unique sword path. When Yu Chen first climbed the Jindan mountain, he approached the sword monument and shocked all the cultivators on the mountain top. Su Su evaluated him as a sword genius that only appears once in 1,000 years. The 3 of them were vying to accept Yu Chen as their apprentice, and no one gave in. In order to make the other 2 give up, Su Su paid a big price. It was at that time that the 3 of them made an agreement. Su Su accepted Yu Chen as his apprentice, the next sword genius would take Sun Yingxiang as his master, and the third would take Hu Beiquan. The reason why Yu Chen stayed in Gijian Mountain was just to learn from others and make up for the shortcomings of his sword power. Of course, he also wanted to hone himself by borrowing the sword intent on the sword monument. If not, he would have probably left Gijian Mountain and entered the complicated world of cultivating immortals to make up for his sword. But Su Su said, "Your sword talent is higher than Yu Chen's. You are a sword genius that only appears once in 1,000 years." Although they were mentally prepared, many people still took a breath. You should know that Su Su's evaluation of Yu Chen is once in 1,000 years, while his evaluation of Ling Youdao is not once in 1,000 years. Although there is only one word difference between once and not once, it is a gap of a level. The key is that the person who said this is Su Su. Who is Su Su? He is the first living sword cultivator in Bihai, a powerful existence who can laugh and discuss with the Yuanying patriarch. Today, Ling Youdao received such a high evaluation from Su Su. It won't be long before the three words Ling Youdao will spread throughout Bihai, and at the same time, it will be accompanied by the evaluation of a sword genius who is not once in 1,000 years. You don't have to care about Yiming's words, seeing that Su Su said this. Sun Yingxiang didn't know what to say. However, Ling Youdao said, "I never care about it. My name is from my parents. How can I change it easily?" Hu Beiquan clapped his hands and said, "Well said." Shen Yiming looked unhappy. Sun Yingxiang glanced at Hu Beiquan and snorted coldly. Okay, let's get to the point." Sun Yingxiang and Su Su understood what Hu Beiquan meant. He wanted to accept Ling Youdao as his disciple immediately to avoid more trouble. Su Su was reluctant, but he had made a promise at the beginning, so he couldn't break it. So he had to close his eyes and pretend not to hear. Seeing this, Hu Beiquan looked at Ling Youdao with a smile on his face. "Ling Youdao, I want to accept you as my last disciple. Are you willing?" Hearing this, the cultivators were speechless. What kind of question was this? A dignified Jindan cultivator, a sword cultivator who has comprehended the sword power for hundreds of years, extended an olive branch. As long as he was not a fool, he would kneel down and become his disciple. Judging from Ling Youdao words and conversation, he was obviously not a fool. There is no doubt that he would kneel down and become Hu Beiquan's disciple immediately. Hu Beiquan was also full of confidence. After all, he had given him enough face. However, Ling Youdao said, "Thank you for your kindness, senior. I'm sorry I can't agree to it." What? Everyone was shocked. Su Su and Sun Yingxiang suddenly opened their eyes, with a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Chapter 211 I take myself as my teacher and prove the perfection of my sword heart. Hu Beiquan's smiling face suddenly froze, and he asked, "Do you think I'm unworthy of being your master?" Without waiting for Ling Youdao to speak, he immediately said, "After all, I'm also a cultivator in the middle stage of the Golden Core. Although I haven't comprehended the sword intent, I have been practicing sword skills for hundreds of years. I think I can still be your master." Sun Yingxiang hurriedly said, "If others don't want to worship you as a master, you shouldn't force it. As the saying goes, a forced melon is not sweet." Hearing this, Hu Beiquan snorted coldly at Sun Yingxiang. "What's it got to do with you?" Sun Yingxiang chuckled, "Although according to the agreement, this boy should be your disciple, but you failed to accept him as your disciple. Now that he has no master, in order to prevent the genius from slipping away, I naturally have to recruit him." Su Su waved his hand and said, "Okay, stop talking." He then looked at Ling Youdao with a kind smile on his face. "My dear friend, since you don't want to be Hu Daoyao's disciple, we won't force you." Su Su's words were fine, but when Hu Beiquan heard them, he always felt that these words were so harsh. Ling Youdao bowed and said, "Thank you for your understanding, my dear friend. Since you don't want to be Hu Daoyao's disciple, have you ever considered being my disciple or Sun Daoyao's disciple?" Ling Youdao is a rare sword genius in 1,000 years. Hu Beiquan, Sun Yingxiang, or Su Su all want to take him as a disciple. Before, due to the agreement they had made, the two did not ask when Hu Beiquan accepted him as a disciple. Now that Ling Youdao has clearly rejected Hu Beiquan, it is not a violation of the original agreement for the two to extend their olive branches. Sun Yingxiang looked at Ling Youdao and said, "My dear friend, if you take me as your master, I will definitely do my best to train you." Shen Yiming heard what his master said, and he became even more upset with Ling Youdao. His eyes were full of jealousy when he looked at him. Seeing this, Su Su showed no weakness and immediately made his promise. As long as you are willing to take me as your master, you will be my last disciple like Yu Chen. You know my cultivation. Although I have not yet comprehended the sword intention, I am confident that I will be able to comprehend it in my lifetime. Su Su was still a little low-key and did not directly say that he was the #1 sword cultivator in the North Sea. Of course, he also wanted to test Ling Youdao to see how confident he was. Facing the olive branch thrown by the two Jindan Clan, Ling Youdao still behaved calmly, which confused everyone at once. He bowed his hands and said respectfully, "Please forgive me, two seniors, but I cannot take you as my master." Su Su and the other 5 looked at Ling Youdao in shock. His answer was so unexpected that they were so shocked that they could not recover for a while. As the saying goes, even a clay man has a temper, let alone a Jindan sword cultivator who has comprehended the sword force. As seniors, the 3 of them had given Ling Youdao enough face, but he rejected the kindness of the 3 people one after another. Since the 3 of them formed their golden elixir, they had never been treated like this by a foundation-building cultivator. Sun Yingxiang looked at Ling Youdao and snorted coldly, "What a boy who doesn't know the current situation." Although the voice was not particularly loud, everyone present heard it very clearly. The 30 people were also pulled back from their daze by Sun Yingxiang's words, and their hearts instantly exploded. "Arrogant, so arrogant, how dare you reject the kindness of the 3 seniors one after another? This kid is too arrogant. What a rare sword genius in 1,000 years, it was not evaluated by Master Su Jian, and now you dare to reject Master Su Jian. I don't know whether it is said that you are stupid or you are stupid." Su Su's face was also a little ugly. Ling Youdao didn't give him face. Shen Yiming stared at Ling Youdao with a smirk on his face, as if he was watching a good show, and cursed him in his heart as a fool. Yu Chen looked at Ling Youdao, thinking a little, but did not speak. Hu Beiquan chuckled, and saw that Sun Yingxiang and Su Su were defeated just like him, and he felt happy in his heart. Su Su said coldly, "What? Do you think that the 3 of us are not worthy of being your master?" While saying this, a strong breath pressed towards Ling Youdao. Ling Youdao broke through to the middle stage of foundation building a year ago, but even so, he could not resist a breath of Jindan Clan. A layer of sweat appeared on his forehead in an instant, and his upper and lower teeth were clenched. It was obvious that the resistance was very difficult. But he still did not give in, staring at Su Su and said, "I take myself as my master to prove the perfection of my sword heart." Although Ling Youdao has not yet completed his swordsmanship, he can already see a prototype. Whether it is to people, the earth or the sky, he will not give in, and will not retreat. The 3 people have already succumbed to the sword intent on the sword monument. Ling Youdao apprenticeship of the 3 people is indirectly succumbing to the sword intent on the sword monument. This is not in line with his swordsmanship. If Ling Youdao becomes a master today, he will put a shackle on himself. At this time, his cultivation is still low, and there is no danger. But as his sword cultivation level increases, this shackle will appear and become a roadblock on his road to immortality. Therefore, he cannot become someone else's apprentice. Of course, there are definitely benefits to becoming an apprentice. Having a powerful Jindan Clan as a master, he will have more confidence in speaking and doing things in behave. But Ling Youdao disdains to have these. He only relies on the sword in his hand. And this is how the monks of Cangli Ling family know him. If he gives in, it will go against his original intention. After all, he is the one who once said that I can build my foundation by myself. Why do I need to rely on external objects? Ling Youdao words shocked everyone, and Yu Chen opened his eyes wide in an instant, as if he had figured out something, and his face was full of a smile that could not be concealed. The anger of the 3 real people disappeared. Su Su immediately retracted his breath, and looked at Ling Youdao with admiration in his eyes. Su Su said, "When I was this age, I was not as good as you. Jindan Clan accepting disciples is definitely a huge temptation for the foundation-building cultivators. Many people must have called him master immediately." In the eyes of the 3 Jindan Clan, Ling Youdao followed his heart and withstood this temptation, which was unimaginable. "Senior, you are too kind." Su Su shook his head. "No, what I said is true. Since you have insisted, the 3 of us will no longer insist on accepting you as a disciple. Thank you for your understanding." The 3 Clan nodded, and Ling Youdao appeared and sat cross-legged on the ground, which stunned many people around him. Ling Youdao felt the sword intent coming from the sword monument. He tried to understand and absorb what was beneficial to him, unlike Su Su and others, who directly succumbed to this sword intent and copied it directly. The three immortals began to communicate with each other through voice transmission. Su Su said, "What do you think of this person?" Sun Yingxiang pondered for a while and said, "He is a natural swordsmith." Brother Su's evaluation of him is probably too low. Hu Baiquan said, "Indeed, this person's achievements in swordsmanship will definitely be higher than ours in the future. He will definitely be able to comprehend his own unique sword intent." Throughout the history of Bihei, there are only a handful of cultivators who can comprehend their own unique sword intent, and Ling Youdao may join this team. Su Su said, "It's okay if it's too low. It can be regarded as a kind of protection for him. Only living geniuses are true geniuses." The three did not want to see Ling Youdao fall before he grew up. The next chapter will be published before 7:30. Chapter 212. This beast actually knows how to divert trouble. North Sea, 10,000 Islands Chain, Golden Dragon Island. Although a year has passed since the red tide, everyone still remembers the terrible disaster. Fortunately, the red tide did not attack Golden Dragon Island at that time, but chose to bypass it. Otherwise, even with the 4th level intermediate grade Black Thunder Heaven Shaking Formation and the 3 Yuanying ancestors in charge, it is not certain that Golden Dragon Island can be defended. Because the Red Light Leech has the ability to break the ban, the ability of a single one may be very weak, but when countless Red Light Leeches act together, the ability to break the ban will be magnified many times. Whether the Black Thunder Heaven Shaking Formation can withstand it is still an unknown. Once the Black Thunder Heaven Shaking Formation is broken, countless Red Light Leeches will instantly press towards Golden Dragon Island, and the Yuanying ancestors will not be able to save them no matter how strong they are. In general, fortunately and misfortune, the Red Light Leeches did not attack Golden Dragon Island. After bypassing the Golden Dragon Island, the red tide traveled northward for more than 5,000 miles, and joined the other two red tides to form a huge Red Sea area with a length and width of more than 1,000 miles. This is countless Red Light Leeches looking for a mate. It was not until a month later that the Red Light Leeches completed mating and left one after another. At the beginning, they were divided into only 3 groups, but the number of groups increased as time went on, and each group of Red Light Leeches became fewer and fewer, and finally distributed throughout the entire Wandao Island chain. This inevitably makes people sigh at the speed of the Red Light Leeches. This disaster came suddenly, but it also passed quickly, in just 3 months. Unlike the legendary Red Tide, it never stopped over and over again. If it weren't for the powerful refining masters, it would be unknown when it would cause trouble. It was precisely because the red tide came suddenly that it caused great losses to the human and demon races in the North Sea. Afterwards, statistics showed that 2 of the red tides came from the demon race area, and the remaining 1 came from the human race area, which was the red tide that passed through the Golden Dragon Island. Let alone the first 2 red tides, the last red tide alone caused considerable losses to the eastern human cultivators. Because it was the time to hunt monsters, many ships went out to sea. The red tide suddenly hit, and many ships failed to escape its clutches. The people on the ship, or the bodies of the hunted monsters, were also cheapened by the red tide, which was considered to be a loss of both people and money. Of course, there were also many people who gave up the ship early and flew back to Jindan Island. For these people, they were luckier, at least they saved their lives. The luckiest people were people like Cangli Lingxi. They fled back to Jindan Island with people and ships. Fortunately, the hard-earned gains were still there, and they did not fall into the red tide. Of course, the real winners of this disaster were the shops on the island, especially the shops opened by several major forces in the North Sea. They purchased many monster bodies and various materials at a price 30% lower than the original price. Now that the red tide disaster is over, they have made a lot of money. The islands in the 10,000 Islands chain are dense, and it is unknown how many islands the 3 red tides passed along the way. Those islands were not protected by high-level formations, nor were there powerful Yuanying ancestors. Facing the sudden red tide, except for the Jindan's Henren and a few foundation-building cultivators who escaped, the rest became food for the red light sea leeches. 3 dead zones with their ends together blocked the 10,000 Islands chain. Without several years, or even more than 10 years, these dead zones could not be completely full of life, and it would take at least dozens or hundreds of years to restore them to the state before the red tide. On the vast ocean, between countless islands, the 2 ships had been facing each other for 3 hours. Chuan Beichang looked at the sun. There are still 3/4 of an hour before noon. Everyone should be alert and don't be tricked by the other party at this time, The cultivators at the bow and stern said in unison, "Understood." Hearing this, Su Mao on the opposite ship said a few words, and the cultivators on the ship also responded. At this moment, a wounded monster jumped out of the water and then fell back into the sea, leaving a piece of red sea water in its place. Someone on the two ships facing each other said at the same time, "Red gold turtle, everyone be on alert." Upon hearing this, the monks on the two ships were shocked and immediately turned around, staring at the escaping red gold turtle. Chuan Beicheng looked at the sun again, then looked in the direction where the red gold turtle escaped, his face full of solemnity. It would be better if nothing unexpected happened. Mashin is about to reach noon. Once this time is missed, we have to wait another year. Not only was he worried, Su Mao on the opposite ship was also worried. This red gold turtle was a second-level upper-grade monster, comparable to a human cultivator in the late Foundation building period. However, this monster escaped with injuries, which meant that it encountered a stronger existence. Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao were not worried about the red gold turtle, but the powerful existence that injured the red gold turtle like this. Suddenly, a treasure ship came out from behind the sea cliff and appeared in front of everyone. The cultivators on the two ships were shocked. Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao immediately said, "Be patient and wait and see what the other party is up to." On the treasure ship that came from afar, Ling Youdao immediately ordered, "Everyone be on guard." Ling Youdao frowned. "I didn't expect there would be someone behind this island." He turned and asked, "Grandpa, what should we do now? This beast is quite smart. It actually knows how to divert the trouble." Ling Dingxi said, "Uncle, I'm worried that the other party is also thinking about the red gold turtle. We are afraid that we will conflict with them." Ling Youdao said, "The five of us spent so much effort to seriously injure the beast. How can we give up just because of the two ships and let the treasure ship approach? The red gold turtle is not stupid. If there are Jindan's Henrin on the two ships, it will never dare to deliberately swim towards the two ships. In this way, it is not difficult to guess that the people on the two ships are not strong. It is estimated that the strongest one is only a foundation building cultivator. And cultivators in the late stage of foundation building cannot have it." Under the control of the key training monks of the Cangli Ling family, the treasure ship quickly headed towards the red gold turtle. If it didn't speed up, the red gold turtle would escape. The treasure ship of the Cangli Ling family was getting closer and closer to the two sea ships. Ling Youdao had been staring at the two sea ships, but suddenly said, "There are only 3 foundation building monks on each of the two sea ships, and the strongest are 2 monks in the middle stage of foundation building." Hearing this, the key training monks on the treasure ship breathed a sigh of relief. After all, if a fight breaks out, they are the most likely to die. It has been 3 years since everyone came to the 10,000 Islands chain. When they came, there were 13 key training monks, but now there are only 8 left, which is the best proof. They are not on the same group. They should have been in a state of confrontation before we appeared. Our appearance forced them to temporarily point their spearheads at us. Hearing this, Ling Youdao laughed. In this way, they will be even more afraid to snatch our red gold turtle. Still 7 plus 10,000 20,000 chapters. There are 2 exams this week, and I will pay them back later. Chapter 213. If you can't do it, we will come to help. The treasure ship of the Cangli Ling family stopped 30 feet away from the two sea ships, and Ling Youdao immediately said, "Attack." Immediately, Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingxi, Ling Youdao, and Mu Yanren flew away from the treasure ship at the same time and attacked the fleeing red gold turtle. Seeing this, the cultivators on the two sea ships were shocked. Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao shouted at the same time, "Be on guard." The two of them were not sure whether the 4 people really wanted to hunt the red gold turtle, or use the guise of hunting the red gold turtle to paralyze themselves and others so that they could launch a surprise attack and win. In an instant, all the cultivators on the two sea ships aimed at the 4 people. As long as the 4 people showed signs of being unfavorable to them, they would immediately attack. Then Ling Youdao flew to the middle of the 3 sea ships with his sword and bowed to the foundation building cultivators on the 2 sea ships. He said, "Excuse me, fellow Taoists. We have been tracking the red gold turtle all the way here just to hunt this monster. We have no other intentions. I hope you will not misunderstand me." Hearing this, the cultivators on the 2 ships looked at each other, still somewhat unsure of the real purpose of Ling Youdao and others coming here. But the other party has already expressed his position, so they can't just say nothing. Chuan Beicheng said, "Excuse me, fellow Taoist, it's okay for you to hunt the red gold turtle, but please leave quickly after hunting. We are searching for important things in the sea area. Su Mao also said immediately, yes, we have no objection to you hunting this beast, but you have to hurry, now there are more than 2/4 of an hour before noon. Neither Chang Beichuan nor Su Mao wants another force to get involved. After all, the more forces that get involved, the fewer treasures they can share. Ling Youdao didn't know whether what the two said was true or not, and he didn't want to cause trouble, so he said, don't worry, fellow Taoists, we will leave immediately after we kill this beast. Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao nodded, and Ling Youdao flew to Ling Youdao and others to hunt the red gold turtle with them. Although the red gold turtle was seriously injured, it was powerful. The key was that it was deep in the sea with thick seawater as a barrier. It would take some time for the 5 people to hunt it. Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao already had a general understanding of this sudden force. The other party had 5 foundation building cultivators, and the leader was a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building. It seemed that he was very powerful and needed to be carefully guarded. As for the remaining 4, they were only cultivators in the early stage of foundation building, which was relatively easier to deal with. However, the two did not know that the seemingly powerful Ling Youdao could only exert the strength of the middle stage of foundation building, while Ling Dingshan and Ling Youdao, who seemed to be only in the early stage of foundation building, actually had the strength to fight against the cultivators in the middle stage of foundation building. Among them, Ling Dingshan's strength was even greater than that of many cultivators in the middle stage of foundation building. Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao looked into each other's eyes, and everything was self-evident. If the people of Cangli Lings still refused to leave after hunting the red gold turtle, the two forces would join hands and force the people of Cangli Lings to retreat first. The 5 people hunted the red gold turtle in front of the cultivators of the two forces. Except for Ling Youdao, none of them dared to use their full strength, lest the other party find out their details. Ling Youdao did use his full strength, but in the eyes of the foundation building cultivators of the two forces, he obviously did not use his full strength. Otherwise it would be impossible for a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building to only have the combat power of the middle stage of foundation building. In an instant, they imagined the reason why Ling Youdao could only exert the combat power of the middle stage of foundation building. The red gold turtle was difficult to deal with, and the 4 of them did not use their full strength. For a while, the 5 people were in a stalemate with a red gold turtle in the sea. Time passed slowly. And seeing that the sun was about to rise to the middle of the sky, Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao became a little anxious. Damn it, it's almost noon, there's not enough time. Seeing Chuan Beicheng so anxious, someone next to him said, it looks like they need some time to successfully hunt the red gold turtle. Chuan Beicheng said, they must leave before noon. Immediately, he urged, 5 Taoist friends, when can you get rid of these injured beasts? Su Mao continued, if you can't, we will come to help. Hearing this, Ling Youdao said, don't worry about it, it's just a wounded second-level upper-grade monster. We can still deal with it. Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao snorted at the same time and stopped talking. They could only attack from the side. If they directly drove Cangli Ling away, it would seem too guilty, as if they were trying to cover up their guilt. Ling Youdao naturally had to be tough with the 2 of them. But he whispered to Ling Youdao and the other 5, it seems that they are impatient to wait. Get rid of the red gold turtle as soon as possible, and then leave the sea area quickly to avoid getting involved in trouble. Yes, the 4 people agreed with Ling Youdao words. Next, Ling Dingshan and Ling Youdao showed stronger strength than before. Seeing this, Chuan Beicheng whispered, sure enough, they had their strength and kept a trick for us. After a cup of tea, the 5 people finally hunted down the second-level upper-grade demon beast red gold turtle. Then Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingxi, and Mu Yanran cast a spell at the same time, and the body of the red gold turtle was lifted out of the sea and headed towards the treasure ship of Cangli Ling's family. A second-grade top-grade red gold turtle is worth a lot of spirit stones. How about we join forces with Chuan Beicheng and others to snatch this red gold turtle? Su Mao suddenly turned sideways to look at the person who was speaking, and said angrily, the other party is quite strong, let them go, don't make trouble at this time, so as not to ruin our big plan. The man nodded and stopped talking. Ling Youdao and Ling Youdao flew to the middle of the 3 ships. Ling Youdao bowed and smiled, I am very grateful that you fellow Taoists did not try to snatch the red gold turtle. It was not far from noon at this time, and one person couldn't help but say, don't say that nonsense, since you have hunted the red gold turtle. Let's leave quickly. As soon as this was said, Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao looked at the man at the same time, and a flash of anger flashed in their eyes. In their hearts, they cursed, "This idiot." Ling Youdao frowned slightly, but the smile on Ling Yuangu's face did not diminish. "Haha, this fellow Taoist is really good at joking," Chuan Beicheng said. "My brother said something wrong. I hope fellow Taoist will not take it as an offense." Ling Yuangu waved his hand and said, "Nothing, nothing, Grandpa, it seems like they really want us to." Ling Yuangu didn't wait for Ling Youdao to finish his words, and pressed his right hand on his left shoulder, signaling him not to speak. Ling Youdao nodded, then shut up and stopped talking. "Everyone, we have already hunted the red gold turtle, so let's go first." After saying that, the two turned around and flew towards the treasure ship. When they returned to the treasure ship, Ling Dingshan and the other two had already put the body of the red gold turtle into the bottom space of the treasure ship. With Ling Yuangu's order, the treasure ship slowly sailed along the way it came. Seeing this, the monks on the two ships breathed a sigh of relief. The next chapter will be posted before 7 o'clock today. Chapter 214, Moyu Jade Plate, Sea Whirlpool. After the treasure ship passed the sea cliff and sailed for some distance, Ling Youdao looked at Ling Yuangu and said, "Grandpa, what that person said just now meant that he was anxious for us to leave." Hearing this, Ling Yuangu nodded and said, "I can see that too. It's not just that person, the two leading cultivators in the middle stage of foundation building are the same. Although those two concealed it very well, we can still find out the suspicion from the subtle details." "What about us?" Ling Yuangu chuckled. "Of course we can't leave in a hurry, Grandpa. I feel relieved when you say that. Youdao, you acted too anxious just now. If the other party notices something, they will know that they are exposed and will be on guard against us. It will be impossible for us to be the ominous bird again." Ling Youdao nodded. He was indeed a little anxious just now. Fortunately, he was stopped by Ling Yuangu and the other party did not find out anything suspicious. "Grandpa, the people from the two forces must think we have left now." "Yes, that's what we want," Ling Yuangu ordered. "Stop the ship." The Kiggan cultivator who was controlling the treasure ship was confused, but he still stopped the treasure ship according to Ling Yuangu's order. "We'll stay here and see what those people are going to do." Ling Yuangu stroked his beard and narrowed his eyes. The treasure ship turned a corner before, and there was a protruding cliff in the middle, so the cultivators on the two ships could not see the treasure ship of Cangli Ling's family. Ling Youdao also nodded with a smirk on his face. Ling Dingshan, Ling Dingxi, and Mu Yanren came over. He asked in confusion, "Uncle, why did you stop the ship suddenly?" Ling Youdao stretched out his right hand, pointed in the direction of the two ships, and smiled. "Of course, it's to be a yellow bird." The three were not stupid. From the other party's performance and what Ling Youdao said, they roughly guessed it. When they saw that the treasure ship of Cangli Ling's family had completely disappeared, the cultivators on the two ships breathed a sigh of relief. Finally they left. Someone couldn't help but ask, "Will they come back?" After all, someone just let it slip. Su Mao said, "They don't know the details, and they don't want to cause trouble. They probably won't come back." Chuan Beizhang said, "How about we send someone to explore the surrounding situation?" Su Mao said, "No, it's almost noon." "Okay," Chuan Beizhang continued. "Later, our two sides foundation building cultivators will enter the ruins, and the key training cultivators will stay outside. This issue must be settled now, otherwise who would feel at ease if one side only left a foundation building cultivator outside and the other side only left a group of key training cultivators?" Su Mao said, "The ruins are dangerous inside, and one more foundation building cultivator will be safer. Just do as you said and leave the key training cultivators outside." "What is the situation inside the ruins?" "No one knows, because the cultivators from both sides have not entered yet." Chuan Beizhang looked at the sun. "How about we stop the confrontation first?" Su Mao nodded and said, "Okay." On the other side, on the treasure ship of Cangli Ling's family, Ling Youdao said, "Uncle, you stay here, I'll go check it out." The treasure ship stopped here, and the cultivators on the two ships really couldn't see the people from Cangli Ling's family. But Ling Youdao and others couldn't see the situation there either. "Okay, go ahead," Mu Yanren said with concern. "Brother Youdao, you have to be careful." "Don't worry, Yanren, I'm just checking it out from a distance." Mu Yanren nodded, and Ling Youdao immediately flew away from the treasure ship on his sword. He hid behind the cliff, and when he turned his head, he could just see the location of the two ships. They really have a secret. Before, Chuan Beicheng said that he was looking for something, But now that the people from Cangli Ling's family have left, the two ships are still parked there, which obviously doesn't agree with what he said. Let's see what you are doing there. Time passed slowly, and Ling Youdao stared at the two ships from a distance, and the sun had quietly reached the middle of the sky. On the ship, Chuan Beicheng said happily, "It's noon, we can start." As he said that, he took out a crescent-shaped, ink-like jade stone from his storage bag, about 4 inches in size. "Sumao, where's the half of the ink moon jade plate in your hand? Take it out quickly, time waits for no one. If you miss it, you will have to wait until this time next year." Hearing this, Sumao smiled and said, "No hurry, there's still time." Although he said so, a flash of light flashed in his hand, and a crescent-shaped jade stone appeared. But Chuan Beicheng frowned and snorted in his heart, "Sumao, you dare to show off your power to me? You will be in trouble when you enter the ruins." He did not choose to tear his face with Sumao at this time. After all, opening the ruins is a big deal, and no one knows what is inside the ruins. One more person means more safety. The two flew away from their respective treasure ships on swords and came to the middle of the two treasure ships, putting the two crescent-shaped black jade together. The ink moon jade plate flew up by itself, emitting a white spiritual light. In the distance, Ling Youdao shouted in surprise, "What is this?" Then, the mountain shook and the ground trembled. The sudden change made Ling Youdao, who was standing on the cliff, sway and almost fall into the sea. Fortunately, he was quick-witted and grabbed a stone that was spit out from the cliff. At the same time, the sea area was stirred up by waves, and one wave was higher than the other. Two ships and the treasure ship of Cangli Ling's family were swaying in the sea. On the treasure ship, the key training monks of Cangli Ling's family were staggering. Ling Dingshan said, "What's going on?" Then he saw Ling Yuangu immediately cast a spell to control the swaying treasure ship, and the key training monk who fell down stood up again. "The waves are big. Control the treasure ship." Hearing this, several Kagan cultivators said, "Yes." Ling Yuangu said, "The mountains and the earth are shaking suddenly, and the waves are rolling up. It must be the work of that group of people." The shaking came quickly and went away quickly. After it ended, a huge whirlpool appeared on the sea not far from the two ships, with a dazzling spiritual light flashing on it. Seeing this scene, the cultivators on the two ships were overjoyed. Chuan Beicheng said, "Let's go." Sumao was not willing to be left behind, and immediately said, "Let's go too." The two immediately flew to the whirlpool on their swords, and two foundation-building early-stage cultivators followed behind them. The 6 people came to the top of the whirlpool, hidden in the spiritual light, and disappeared in an instant. The whole process was seen clearly by Ling Youdao, who was far away. After calming down his inner excitement, he said, "I didn't expect that there were hidden ruins in the sea area of 10,000 islands chain. I have to tell my great-grandfather and the others quickly. This relic must belong to our Cangli Ling family." After saying that, he immediately flew back to the treasure ship on his sword. Chapter 215, 10,000 Years in the North Sea, 4 Major Eras. Seeing Ling Youdao return, Ling Yuangu immediately asked, "Youdao, what's going on? What exactly are they planning here?" Ling Youdao put away his flying sword, stood firm and said, "Grandpa, those people gathered here to enter a ruins." Everyone was shocked. This place is the 10,000 Islands chain, the territory of the demon race. The human race has only been here for a short time, so where would the ruins come from? Facing everyone's doubts, Ling Youdao said firmly, "It's absolutely correct. The earthquake and the waves just now were caused by the sudden appearance of the passage to the ruins." A huge whirlpool appeared on the sea not far from the two ships, with a spiritual light flashing on it. "It is the entrance to the ruins. I saw it with my own eyes, and it's absolutely correct." But why did the ruins appear in this 10,000 islands chain? Everyone was still a little confused. The silent Ling Yuangu suddenly said, "It's not impossible." Hearing this, everyone was puzzled. Ling Youdao pondered and said, "What does Grandpa mean?" Although the 10,000 islands chain belongs to the demon race now, 30,000 years ago, this was actually the territory of our human race. 30,000 years ago? Everyone was shocked by Ling Yuangu's words, but Ling Youdao fell into deep thought. This has to mention the history of the North Sea. Everyone looked at Ling Yuangu, their eyes full of curiosity. Ling Yuangu spoke slowly, as if he was telling a story from a long time ago. Ancient times, medieval times, recent times, and now, these are the various periods that the North Sea immortal cultivation world has experienced in the past 100,000 years. About 100,000 years ago, many high-level cultivators opened up the North Sea immortal cultivation world. These high-level cultivators who opened up the North Sea were from the human race and the demon race. The cultivators of the two races worked together to kill the ancient beasts of the North Sea. Among them, the human cultivators established their own sects, and the demon cultivators established their own tribes. During that period, the North Sea immortal cultivation world was full of contending schools of thought, and the strength was very strong. This period ended about 80,000 years ago, and these 20,000 years are called the ancient times of the North Sea, and the ancient beasts of the North Sea were almost all killed during this period. In the late ancient times, whether it was the sect forces of the human race or the tribe forces of the demon race, they were fighting each other, and more forces were destroyed. All the small forces became vassals of the big forces, and this continued until 80,000 years ago, when there were only 8 big forces left in the North Sea human race. The emergence of the 8 big forces marked the end of the ancient times of the North Sea and the beginning of the medieval times. Ling Youdao words shocked the cultivators present. The history of the North Sea they knew was only the last 10,000 years, and they were not very clear. After all, a key training cultivator only had a lifespan of 100 years, and a foundation-building cultivator had a lifespan of a little over 200 years at most. If they were not the kind of people who loved history, how could they deliberately visit the history of the North Sea cultivation world in various eras? And what Ling Youdao said now seemed to open a door to the past in front of everyone. The Middle Ages spanned 50,000 years. During the entire Middle Ages, the human race in the North Sea's immortal world had ups and downs, and the strong and weak were replaced, but it was always ruled by 8 major forces. In the early period of the Middle Ages, because the ancient beasts disappeared, the human and demon races no longer had external threats, which led to a rift in the relationship between the two races. In the middle of the Middle Ages, the human and demon races in the North Sea broke up completely. In the late period, the two races attacked each other and reached the point of being like water and fire, until 30,000 years ago, Xianhe Palace rose strongly and destroyed the other 7 major forces in one fell swoop, becoming a superpower that unified the North Sea's immortal world. This announced the end of the North Sea's Middle Ages and the beginning of the modern era. The modern era lasted for 20,000 years. During these 20,000 years, the entire North Sea's immortal world was strongly controlled by Xianhe Palace. 10,000 years ago, Xianhe Palace suddenly collapsed, the modern era ended, and entered an era in which the 4 major sects jointly ruled the North Sea, which is now. Someone puzzled, aren't there 5 major sects now? Why did the elder say there are 4 major sects? Ling Youdao looked at the man and took the lead in explaining, because the Red Sun sect and the Zuanayu sect were once the same force, called the Sun and Moon sect. It was just that 8,000 years ago, the Sun and Moon sect's ancestors Qi and Xuingxin suddenly disagreed, and Xuingxin was angry and took the female disciples of the Sun and Moon sect away and re-established the Zuanayu sect. Although the Qi ancestor was able to stay in the Sun and Moon sect's resident, because the Zuanayu lineage left, the sect only had the Red Sun lineage's inheritance, and he was really angry at the time, so he changed the sect to the Red Sun sect in this way. The current pattern of the 5 major sects was formed. Everyone nodded. They really didn't know much about these things. Brother Youdao, how do you know this? Ling Youdao looked at Mu Yanran and smiled and said, I used to read it in the family's sutra pavilion. Hearing this, several key training cultivators of the Cangli Ling family next to them secretly decided that if they could return to the family alive, they must read the books in the sutra pavilion carefully. Ling Youdao nodded. Youdao is right, he then said. Although the demon race in the ancient, medieval and recent times was strong, it was always suppressed by the human race in the East. Especially in the recent ancient times, the Xianhe Palace suppressed not only the human race in the East, but also the demon race in the West. Until 10,000 years ago, the Xianhe Palace suddenly collapsed, and the demon race in the West took the opportunity to seize the 10,000 Islands chain and march to the 1,000 Islands chain. At that time, Xianhe Palace had just been destroyed, and a large number of high-level cultivators of the human race sat in meditation, leaving only a few. Not to mention counterattacking the 10,000 Islands chain, it was extremely difficult to even defend the 1,000 Islands chain. It was not until 600 years ago that the human race in the East returned to the 10,000 Islands chain again. It is indeed impossible for the 10,000 Islands chain to have relics from the last 10,000 years, but there are definitely relics from the ancient, medieval and recent times. Hiss, everyone took a breath of cold air. Although they did not know about the different periods, they knew that the North Sea immortal Dao was very prosperous 10,000 years ago, and there were even strong people who surpassed the Yuanying ancestors. In the immortal cultivation side of that period, even a grass worthless spiritual stones would have grown to a high-level spiritual medicine that could cause Yuanying cultivators to fight. It happened in a flash. The whole process took less than an instant stick of time. Grandpa, since we have come across this relic, it is an opportunity for my Cangli Ling family. We must have a share of it. Ling Youdao nodded. Yes, it is a good opportunity to fill the empty treasure house. After that, he waved his hand and said, "Go back." Hearing this, the key cultivating cultivator who controlled the treasure ship immediately turned the steering wheel and headed towards the location of the previous two ships. Everyone stood at the bow, their faces full of excitement. There is no time to revise it, everyone just make do with it, and I will revise it after it is published. Chapter 216 Kingdom Gate Ruins. The key cultivating monks on the two ships warned the surroundings. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Those people are back." The voice was full of trembling. Although everyone did not react for a while, they still looked over in shock. It's that treasure ship. They recognized the Cangli Ling family's ship at a glance. It was the one that left not long ago. Someone said, "Everyone be on guard." Be on guard? How to be on guard? The other side has foundation building monks, and we are just key cultivating monks. How should we be on guard? Hearing this, the breath that had just been raised was immediately released again. Then a person flew over on a sword from the treasure ship that was passing by, hovering above the two ships. Ling Youdao looked at the key cultivating monks below and said, "If you want to live, don't resist." After weighing the strength of both sides, the monks on the two ships decisively gave up resistance. Soon, the treasure ship of Cangli Ling family approached the two ships, and the foundation building monks of Cangli Ling family brought the key cultivating monks on board the two ships. Before this, Ling Youdao had gathered the Kigan cultivators on the two ships on the same ship to make it easier for the clan members to watch over them. Looking at the more than 30 Kigan cultivators, Ling Youdao said, "Yanran, take your people to stay and watch over these people." "Grandpa, I want to go into the ruins with you," Ling Youdao said anxiously. "Yanran, what is the situation inside the ruins?" "None of us knows. It's too dangerous. It's because of the danger that I want to go with you." But, when Ling Youdao wanted to say something else, he was interrupted by Ling Youdao on the side. "Okay, since Yanran insists on going into the ruins with us, then come with us." He immediately looked at Ling Dinxi and said, "Dinxi, you stay?" Ling Dinxi said, "Yes, uncle, compared to the inside of the ruins, the outside must be much safer." Ling Dinxi was naturally very willing to stay outside. "Keep an eye on these people. If anyone dares to cause trouble, just kill them directly. No need to show mercy." Hearing this, more than 30 Kigan cultivators trembled in their hearts and nodded repeatedly, saying, "Don't worry, senior, don't worry, we will never dare to act rashly." Ling Dinxi said, "Don't worry, uncle, Dinxi will definitely keep an eye on these people." "Well, let's go." After that, Ling Youdao, Ling Dingshan, Ling Youdao, and Mu Yanran flew towards the whirlpool on the sea not far away. "Grandpa, the entrance to the ruins is here. I saw with my own eyes that those people disappeared soon after they disappeared into the spiritual light. Let's go." The four of them disappeared into the spiritual light together, and then they felt dizzy and couldn't help closing their eyes. When they opened their eyes, the four of them had appeared in front of a cliff, and there was a circular whirlpool on the cliff behind them. They saw a dense primeval forest in front of them, and in the middle of the forest there was a high mountain with many attics and palaces on it. "There are footprints here." Ling Youdao pointed to the footprints on the ground in front of him and said. Ling Youdao said, "These are the footprints of the people in front." Ling Youdao said, "The footprints disappeared 3 feet away. It seems that he should have flown his sword to the high mountain in the forest. This should be a sect site. As for what era and what sect it is, we can only know it when we reach the high mountain in the forest." Hearing this, Ling Dingshan couldn't wait to say, "In this case, let's set off quickly." The four people sacrificed their own flying swords, jumped up, and drove the flying swords towards the high mountain in the forest. This space is not too big, only 100 feet long and wide. A large ball of light was suspended in the dim sky, emitting a dim light, barely illuminating this space. After flying for only more than 30 miles, the four people had already felt a breath of 7 or 8 second-level monsters. These breaths were strong and weak. The strong ones were comparable to those of late-stage foundation-building cultivators, and the weak ones could only be compared with those of early-stage foundation-building cultivators. As for first-level monsters, there were many of them. Mu Yanran was slightly surprised and said, "There are so many second-level monsters." Ling Youdao said, "There is a high possibility that there are third-level monsters in this space. Don't let your guard down. The four people still have an advantage when dealing with second-level monsters, but once they face third-level monsters, they will only be slaughtered." After flying for a distance, everyone's heart trembled. Mu Yanran suddenly said, "Third-level monster." Just at that moment, a strong breath appeared. Although the breath came and went quickly, the four people could still sense that the owner of the breath was powerful. Ling Youdao affirmed, "It is definitely a third-level monster." Ling Youdao took a breath and said, "Constrain your breath and leave this area as soon as possible." The four people immediately restrained their breaths and flew towards the mountain at the fastest speed. The mountain must be the base of a certain force. Monsters basically don't go there, so it is naturally much safer. After another cup of tea, the four people arrived at the mountain, put away their flying swords, and landed on the ground. The four of them were right at the entrance of the mountain. Next to them was a tall stone tablet with 3 big characters engraved on it, Jindan Sect. Ling Dingshan said, "Jindan Sect, I've never heard of such a sect. It is indeed a sect from the recent ancient times, or even from an even more distant time. Although the Bihei in the recent ancient times was ruled by this Henhei Palace, it did not mean that this Henhei Palace was the only immortal cultivation force. There were also many immortal cultivation forces in that era, but they were all affiliated forces of this Henhei Palace. Even if they were not affiliated forces of this Henhei Palace, they were forces that obeyed the command of this Henhei Palace." Ling Youdao said, "Look at the name. This is a sect that refines pills." Mu Yanran said, "Most of the pills refined back then are unusable, but we can go directly to the spiritual medicine garden. After such a long time, there must be many high-level spiritual medicines in it, and there may even be spiritual medicines that have become extinct in the Bihei immortal cultivation world. Compared with a previous immortal cultivation world, many spiritual plants in the current immortal cultivation world have become extinct, and can only be found in some ruins from distant times." Ling Youdao said, "This Jindan sect has at least a Jindan cultivator in charge, and there may be a Yuanying cultivator. The Sutra Pavilion is also a good place. You can find the cultivation methods of the Jindan sect cultivators, as well as the inheritance of alchemy and other immortal cultivation skills. There must be many good places on this mountain, but the medicine garden and the Sutra Pavilion must have the most treasures." "Then where should we go first?" Ling Dingshan looked at the 3 people and asked. Ling Youdao thought for a while and said, "Go to the Sutra Pavilion first. There may be high-level monsters in the Spirit Medicine Garden. Go there last." The Sutra Pavilion has no attraction to non-transformed monsters, but the Spirit Medicine Garden is different. The spiritual medicines in it are very helpful to monsters, so there may be high-level monsters. This is the sect headquarters of the Jindan sect. There are probably restrictions, so they dare not fly at will. The 4 of them walked together to the place where the tall buildings were most densely packed, looking for the Sutra Pavilion of the Jindan sect. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Search. The further they walked inside, the more unusual this place seemed to the 4 people. Looking at the ruins around them, Ling Youdao said, "It looks like there was a war here." Ling Youdao nodded and said, "Well, the Jindan sect was probably destroyed in that war." Da da da, da da da. "Listen, what's that sound?" Mu Yanran suddenly said, and the other 3 listened carefully. Ling Youdao face changed drastically. "Everyone be on guard, something is coming towards us." Upon hearing this, several people immediately cast a protective spell on themselves, and at the same time, they offered their own spiritual weapons and prepared to attack. Once something dangerous approached, several people would not hesitate to attack and eliminate it. Soon, several people saw a black area like ink approaching quickly. Is this a bug?" The black bugs rushed towards the 4 people like a tide. "How dare a mere bug be so rampant?" As he said this, Ling Youdao put away the yin-yang zhuangguang sword, raised his hands, and a ball of flame suddenly appeared on each of his left and right palms. Ling Youdao's left and right hands came together, and the 2 flames merged to form a white, more powerful flame. He couldn't use Cangli True Flame directly now, So he could only use Cangli Yin Flame and Cangli Yang Flame separately, and then combine the two flames into one, forming the powerful Cangli True Flame. Go! He pushed his hands forward suddenly, and the white flame flew out of his hands and hit the black bugs that surrounded him. With a boom sound, the white flames instantly rushed out and spread outward at an extremely fast speed. In just 1 or 2 breaths, the black bugs that had just surrounded the 4 people were burned to ashes. This made the people watching couldn't help but be surprised. Ling Dingshan nodded and said, "Second nephew, you use this flame well, second uncle is too kind." Ling Youdao waved his hand and said, "Let's go, continue to the sutra library." The 4 people immediately set off towards the sutra library, and they were more vigilant along the way. "Grandpa, what was that bug just now?" Ling Youdao asked Ling Youdao while walking. Ling Youdao did not stop his steps, but explained, "If I am not mistaken, this should be a black armored mantis." Hearing this, Ling Youdao was surprised and said, "Black armored mantis? Hasn't this insect been extinct for more than 3,000 years? Black armored mantises have indeed been extinct in the outside world for many years, but this space has been closed for at least 10,000 years. Some creatures and spiritual plants here have been extinct in the outside world. Even if there are, they are very few, and in areas where cultivators have never stepped into for many years, such as the depths of the 10,000 poison sea." Speaking of this, Ling Youdao did not forget to remind the others, after all, this is not a contemporary relic. The dangers that exist cannot be understood by common sense. "Everyone, be alert." "Yes," Ling Youdao and the other 2 responded together. As the black armored mantis was burned out by Ling Youdao's Cangli mantra, the road leading to the deeper part of the Kingdom Gate ruins was also revealed. Along the way, the 4 people could see many light curtains, or light threads and light bands, which had many colors and were scattered in the air and on various buildings. Be careful to avoid these broken restrictions. Although these restrictions are broken, they still have a certain power. If people touch them, they may be injured. A white light suddenly flashed in front of Ling Dingshan's chest, followed by a bang. The 3 were shocked and looked back, and saw that the protective shield outside Ling Dingshan's body was broken. "Dingshan, what's going on?" "Unlucky, I had a hidden broken restriction." When saying this, Ling Dingshan seemed a little unconcerned. He is a double body of Dharma, and the body has also entered the realm of flesh refining, which is equivalent to the foundation building stage. Now, Ling Dingshan's body is strong, and the ordinary attacks of the foundation building cultivators are difficult to hurt him. At most, a small blood mark will be left. Ling Youdao nodded and said, "Be careful, don't hit the hidden restrictions." Hidden restrictions are invisible to the naked eye, and it is extremely difficult to detect them with spiritual consciousness. It is really hard to guard against them. The 4 people are also most afraid of hidden restrictions. For this reason, they don't even fly directly on the sword to find the sutra library in the air, but choose to walk. After a while, the 4 of them came to a hall. The left half of the hall had collapsed, and the plaque above the entrance was covered with dust, covering the words on the plaque. Ling Youdao stepped forward and waved his right sleeve. Suddenly, a whirlwind blew towards the main entrance of the hall. Countless dust and dilapidated building materials were swept away by the whirlwind. Looking at the 3 words on the plaque, Ling Youdao said, "Council Hall." Hearing this, Ling Youdao waved his hand and said, "Let's go." There can't be anything good in the council hall. The Cangli Ling clan has a council hall, which has the same function as the council hall. The Cangli Ling clan's council hall never puts any precious treasures. Similarly, the senior leaders of the Kingdom sect will most likely not put the sect's treasures in the council hall. Of course, there may be treasures in the council hall, but the probability is too small, and it takes a lot of time to find, which is not worth the loss. Instead of wasting time here, it is better to go to the next place quickly. The 4 of them turned and left the meeting hall, heading for the next tall building. Fian Hall. Yuxi Pavilion. Forget about these places for now, let's find the sutra library first. Let's split up and look for the sutra library, which can save a lot of time. Also, don't go too far, stay nearby. If anyone is in danger, we can rush to rescue in time. Okay. After that, the 4 of them went in 4 directions. Passing through the building complex and a large garden, Ling Youdao saw a loft sitting on a stone mountain. That could be the sutra library. He looked around, but still didn't have the courage to fly over directly. So he could only quickly approach the stone mountain, perform the light body technique, and quickly climb to the top of the mountain. "Hey, there's a formation protecting this place," This place has been sealed for at least 10,000 years, but it is still protected by the formation. This is enough to show that the things in this attic are very important. It is probably the inheritance place of Jindan sect. Thinking of this, Ling Youdao sacrificed the yin-yang Zhuanguang sword and slashed at the formation light curtain, but the formation light curtain did not change at all. He was unwilling to admit defeat and immediately released the second-level low-grade monster Hongyu. Hongyu, it is very dangerous here. You must not cry loudly. I will give an order later, and we will both attack this light curtain at the same time. Hearing this, Hongyu cried softly. Attack! The yin-yang Zhuanguang sword slashed at the light curtain. Hongyu flapped her wings, and a colorful illusory feather hit the light curtain together with a yin-yang Zhuanguang sword. Boom! The light curtain trembled slightly, and then there was no reaction. Chapter 218, The Attic at the Top of Stone Mountain. Looking at the light curtain that had returned to its original state, Ling Youdao frowned slightly. After so many years, this formation is still so powerful. I have to go find my uncle and the others. As he said this, he put the red jade back into the storage bag on his waist, then quickly went down the mountain and headed in the direction he came from. Now he has not encountered irresistible danger. In order not to expose his whereabouts and be discovered by those who came in first and the third level monsters in this space, he chose to go to find Ling Youdao and others in person. It didn't take long for Ling Youdao to find Mu Yanren first. Brother Youdao, how is it? What did you find? I found an attic, but it was covered by a formation. It is most likely the Sutra Pavilion of Jindan sect. Even if it is not the Sutra Pavilion, it is definitely an extremely important place. There must be treasures in it, otherwise it would not be protected so carefully. Mu Yanren nodded and said, in that case, let's go find grandfather and second uncle. Ling Youdao said, you go find second uncle, and I'll go find grandfather. Okay. The two of them split up and searched in the direction where Ling Youdao and Ling Dingshan left. After an instant stick of time, Ling Youdao finally found Ling Youdao in a room in a hall. Grandfather, so you are here? Ling Youdao flashed away from the spot in an instant, and only let down his guard when he saw that it was Ling Youdao. Youdao, it's you? Didn't you go to the other side? Why are you here? Have you found the Sutra Pavilion? Ling Youdao stared at Ling Youdao and asked 3 questions in a row. I found a place that looks like the Sutra Library, but there is a formation guarding it. I can't shake it with my strength, so I came back to find you immediately. Ling Youdao immediately smiled and said, needless to say, this kind of place, any place protected by a formation is definitely an important place, and there must be good things inside. Let's go, take me there quickly. Yanren went to find the second uncle, and we have to wait for them to come together. Okay. Ling Youdao and Ling Youdao returned to the place where the 4 of them had separated before. Half an instant stick later, Mu Yanren and Ling Dingshan returned together. Since everyone is here, let's set off quickly. The 4 of them performed the light body technique. Ling Youdao walked in front, and Ling Youdao and the other 2 followed behind him, quickly heading towards the attic. The 4 of them moved forward at full speed, and in less than half an instant stick of time, they could already see the stone mountain and the attic on the top of the stone mountain. The 4 of them climbed to the top of the stone mountain, and were indeed blocked outside by a layer of light curtain, and could not get close to the attic. This is a 3rd level formation. Because it has not been maintained for a long time, and the replenished spiritual energy cannot keep up with the consumption, the grade has dropped. Now it can only exert the power of a 2nd level upper grade formation. In another 20 or 30 years, it is estimated that it will not even be able to maintain the 2nd level upper grade, and will drop to the 2nd level middle grade. The power of this formation has been continuously reduced over the long years, and now it can only exert the power of a 2nd level upper grade formation. Ling Youdao looked at the 3 people and continued, but with the power of the 4 of us, it may be a bit difficult to break this formation. Ling Dingshan said in a muffled voice, we have to break it even if we can't. This is definitely the Jindan Sect's Sutra Pavilion. We discovered it today. How can we let the Cangli Ling family miss this opportunity in vain? Grandpa, have you forgotten that my nephew has a 2nd level lower grade earth spirit beast Luan here? Hearing this, Ling Youdao eyes lit up. I did forget. If it helps again, we will surely be able to break this formation, Ling Dingshan said happily. In that case, let's get started quickly. Break this formation and move everything inside back to Cangli Island. Ling Youdao and the other 2 nodded at each other, and Ling Youdao released Hongyu again. Hongyu flapped her wings and circled over the four people's heads. Hongyu, don't fly around. Be careful not to be hurt by the restrictions in the space. Hongyu remembered his previous words and did not cry loudly, but only called softly. In the past 3 years, Hongyu helped him hunt monsters many times. The Cangli Ling family cultivators on the treasure ship had seen it, and they all sighed at Ling Youdao's good luck that he could get a second-level top-grade monster like a phoenix crane as a mount. Therefore, Ling Yuangu and the other two were not surprised at this time. Ling Yuangu said, "Follow my instructions and attack together, okay?" After that, there was silence for 2 or 3 breaths. Attack! The next moment, Ling Yuangu's golden eagle sword slashed at the light curtain. Ling Dingshan's mountain-shaking hammer smashed at the light curtain. Ling Youdao's yin-yang mysterious light sword stabbed at the light curtain, and Mu Yanran waved the 5-colored fan in her hand, and a ball of golden energy smashed at the light curtain. The red jade in the air flapped its wings, and the spiritual light on the wings flashed. With a swoosh sound, hundreds of illusory feathers shot towards the light curtain. The 5 attacks hit the light curtain at the same time without any order. Boom! When the 6 collided, a burst of strong light and a loud noise came out. The sudden loud noise made 6 foundation-building monks stand up in shock and look in the direction of the sound. Su Mao pointed in the direction of Ling Youdao on the other 3 and said, "The sound came from that direction." Chuan Beicheng also said immediately, in addition to the loud noise, a burst of white light appeared there. Someone was puzzled and asked, "What's going on? Is there anyone else in this space besides us?" A person next to him shook his head and said with a smile, "This space has been sealed for more than 10,000 years. How could there be people alive? What's impossible about this? Since monsters can live here, why can't humans?" Hearing this, the man who had just spoken was stunned by the question and didn't know how to answer. Su Mao said, "It could also be done by a monster." Everyone was surprised. "Monster?" Chuan Beicheng waved his hand and said, "Okay, whether it's a wild beast or there are really cultivators living in this space, we can't take it lightly." Everyone nodded and agreed with his words. "Let's finish the things here first, and then we'll go and find out what's going on." Then he said, "If there are 3rd-level monsters causing trouble there, we'll leave quietly. If there are cultivators living in this space, we'll blend in with them first and find out the secrets hidden in this space from them." Everyone stroked their beards, their eyes narrowed with smiles. "Great, great, Brother Chuan's method is very great, ha 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 ha." After the white light, the light curtain covering the attic finally disappeared, and the 4 people showed joy. Immediately, Ling Yuangu said in a deep voice, "The noise just now was not small, and it probably attracted the attention of the group of people who came in first." After hearing what he said, the 3 of them regained their composure. "Uncle, we're not afraid of them coming, but my nephew thinks we should still hide in the dark." "What's there to hide? Since the other party is not as strong as us, why not just destroy them?" Ling Dingshan said unhappily. Ling Youdao laughed. "This space is full of dangers. Instead of taking the risk to search every place ourselves, why don't we let them do it for us?" As soon as these words came out, the 2 of them looked at each other and laughed. Chapter 219, Sutra Library. After laughing, Ling Yuangu said, "Okay, let's go in and see what's going on." Yes, the 4 of them walked in together, concentrating their minds to prevent any sudden danger. Outside the attic was a large courtyard. The 4 of them walked for a while and arrived at the center of the courtyard. The courtyard was also messy, but it was much better than outside. After looking around for a while, the 4 of them pointed directly at the closed attic in front of them. Ling Youdao stepped forward, raised his right hand, and a shining water ball suddenly appeared in his palm. The water ball was thrown out and hit the main door of the attic. The huge force instantly broke the door. In fact, there were rune restrictions drawn on it, but with the passage of time, the power of the restrictions became weaker and weaker. Now it has become an ordinary object, so that Ling Youdao can break the door so easily. Most of the restrictions in here have expired. It's better to be careful. Although he said so, Ling Yuangu still walked into the attic. The person in front is definitely the most vulnerable to attack. He walked in front with the intention of protecting Ling Youdao on the other 2. After all, Ling Yuangu's lifespan is not much, but Ling Youdao on the other 2 are still young and have a chance to go one step further. They are the future of Cangli Ling Clan and must not be lost here in vain. Ling Youdao followed Ling Yuangu closely, followed by Mu Yanran, and finally Ling Dingshan. Ling Dingshan also had the same idea as Ling Yuangu, wanting to protect Ling Youdao and Mu Yanran. But of course he wanted to protect Ling Youdao the most. The four of them walked around the hall and came to the space at the back. There were many shelves inside. These shelves were tilted and many of them had been turned into powder. Only a few shelves were completely turned into powder. The things that were originally placed on the shelves also fell to the ground. Everywhere, there were paper books, wooden slips, cloth, jade slips. There were many kinds, and the people who saw it were dazzled. It can't be wrong. This is the sutra library of Jindan sect. As he spoke, Ling Youdao bent down and casually searched among the dust. Finally, he found a jade slip. With a little force in his right hand, the jade slip in his hand was easily broken in half. He stood up and said, "It has been too long. These things have lost their spirituality. This is also normal. After all, this is the first floor. The things stored in it are not very important and there are many of them. Jindan sect will naturally not use two precious jade slips." Ling Youdao waved his hand and said, "Let's go. These things are useless to us. Let's go directly to the second floor." After saying that, he took the lead and went to the second floor. After walking through the curved corridor, the four people entered the second floor. Compared with the first floor, the second floor is indeed very different. The things that carry the inheritance have been replaced with jade slips. The shelves where the jade slips are placed are in the state of turning into dust. It is estimated that in a few hundred or thousands of years, these shelves will be like those on the first floor and all turned into dust. Although none of the shelves fell, there were still a lot of powder on the ground. Seeing this, Ling Youdao immediately said, "No need to look at them one by one. The four of us will act separately and collect all the jade slips that are still emitting spiritual light. After leaving this space, we will find time to take a closer look." Okay, what happened here must have attracted the attention of the group of people who came in first. It is estimated that it will not take long for those people to rush over. Ling Youdao and the other three are fighting for time. They hope to collect the jade slips placed in the Sutra Pavilion by Jindan sect as soon as possible and leave without colliding with a group of people who came in first. Otherwise, Ling Youdao and the other four's dream of being the Oriole will be shattered. Ling Youdao walked to a shelf and looked at the entire shelf. There were many jade slips on the shelf, some of which were shining with spiritual light, while others were dim, and even some jade slips had no spiritual light at all. Then he saw him wave his right sleeve, and all the jade slips on the shelf that were shining with spiritual light disappeared instantly, and were all collected by Ling Youdao into the storage bag on his waist. Immediately, he went to the next shelf. After more than 30 breaths, the four of them collected all the jade slips on the second floor. "Let's go to the third floor." The four of them went to the third floor together, but were blocked outside the third floor. Ling Dingshan was surprised and said, "Huh? The formation on this floor is still running?" Ling Youdao said, "It's better if the formation is still running. Most of the top inheritances of Jindan sect are inside." Ling Youdao waved his hand and said, "Let's not talk about that for now. Break this layer of light wall as soon as possible." Okay, the next moment, the four of them attacked at the same time. The attacks from the Golden Eagle Sword, the Mountain-Shaking Hammer, the Yin-Yang Mysterious Light Sword and the five-colored fan instantly hit the light wall. Bang! The light wall was broken. The four of them rushed into the Sutra Library and saw two light pillars standing in the center of the third floor. The two light pillars were entangled with each other, and a jade slip was floating in each light pillar. In the 8 directions, there were 8 stone platforms. But only one stone platform was covered by the light cover, and a jade slip was placed inside. As for the other 7 stone platforms that were not covered by the light shield, there were no jade slips on the stone platforms, and no one knew where they went. Ling Youdao, Ling Dingshan, and Ling Youdao stepped forward. On the other side, 6 foundation building cultivators walked out of a hall. Chuan Beicheng said, "What a pity. If we could have come thousands of years earlier, we would have obtained a lot of resources for cultivating immortals." As soon as the 6 people entered the Jindan Gate ruins, their goal was very clear, that is, the Jindan Gate's treasure house, hoping to find treasures from it. There are indeed many treasures stored in the treasure house, but 10,000 years is too long, so that many things in the treasure house have lost their spirituality and turned into ordinary mortals. For cultivators, such things are no longer useful. But the 6 people did not gain nothing, and it can even be said that they gained a lot, because some treasures are also extremely important to the Jindan Gate. In order to prevent the loss of spiritual energy of these treasures and turn into ordinary things, the Jindan Gate cultivators 10,000 years ago used special methods to preserve them, so that they can be preserved to this day. Not to mention the various precious minerals and materials cut from the bodies of monsters, there are more than a dozen spiritual weapons alone, one of which is of the best quality. Top quality spiritual weapon? The Jindan's Henrin can only use such weapons. Whoever among the 6 people possesses this top quality spiritual weapon and fully refines, it will definitely have a small leap in strength. Although Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao have not fallen out openly, they have already begun to compete secretly. There is only one top quality spiritual weapon. Who can get it? It depends on one's ability. Hearing Chuan Beicheng's words, Su Mao sneered, "Thousands of years? I'm afraid your ancestors haven't come out yet." Chuan Beicheng looked at Su Mao. "Su Mao, don't look for trouble, what do you want?" At this time, one person from each side came forward and pulled the 2 people. The 2 had to step down, each snorted coldly, and walked towards the direction of the Sutra Pavilion with his sleeves. Chapter 220 Discovering the Suspicious Spiritual Medicine Garden. Chuan Beicheng and the other 6 left the Kingdom Sect's treasure house, looking for the Sutra Pavilion along the way, and searching for treasures along the way. At this time, the 4 people from Cangli Ling's family took the treasures from the Kingdom Sect's Sutra Pavilion and left immediately. Their next goal was the Kingdom Sect's Spiritual Medicine Garden. The 4 people still did not choose to fly, but chose to search on foot. They didn't know where the Kingdom Sect's Spiritual Medicine Garden was, so they could only search slowly. The Spiritual Medicine Garden would definitely not be in a place with dense buildings, but should be in a place with open, flat but not dangerous terrain. Because only in this way can spiritual medicine be planted on a large scale, and secondly, planting, cultivating, and picking are also convenient. Of course, the spiritual medicine that must grow on cliffs is an exception. It is impossible for the 4 people from Cangli Ling's family to look for this kind of spiritual medicine, and instead give up large areas of spiritual medicine gardens, which would be more trouble than gain. Suddenly, Ling Youdao said, "Someone is coming this way." Then he said, "Come with me, get around those people, don't let them discover our presence." Ling Youdao was a late-stage foundation building cultivator. Although he had not fully recovered from his injuries, his spiritual awareness was still the spiritual awareness that only late-stage foundation building cultivators could possess, and it had not been reduced. His spiritual awareness was far stronger than everyone else's, so he naturally sensed someone coming before everyone else. The 3 of them followed him without any hesitation and walked away. Chuan Beicheng and the other 6 were completely unaware of this. He and Su Mao were only mid-stage foundation building cultivators, and their spiritual awareness was not as strong as Ling Youdao, so they failed to discover Ling Youdao spiritual awareness spying around in time. However, when the 2 parties were almost together, the 4 people from Cangli Ling's clan instantly retracted their spiritual awareness, so Chuan Beicheng and the other 6 naturally could not discover it. The 4 people from Cangli Ling's clan hid in the darkness in the distance. Although it was far away, as long as Chuan Beicheng walked past where they were just now, the 4 people from Cangli Ling's clan could still see them. Most likely, it was the first batch of people who came in, attracted by the noise just now. It's very likely. Wait a while, we will know when those people come. The 3 nodded, and stopped talking, but waited quietly. Half an incense stick later, the 6 foundation building cultivators finally appeared in the eyes of the 4 people of Cangli Ling's family. "It's those people." Ling Youdao stared at the 6 people in the distance and said. After a while, the 6 people disappeared from the eyes of the 4 people of Cangli Ling's family. "Okay, now we can be sure that the 6 people went to the Sutra Pavilion." Hearing this, Ling Youdao said, "Once they enter the Sutra Pavilion, they will definitely know our existence. Let's quickly find the spiritual medicine of Kingdom Sect and take away all the spiritual medicine there so that they can be separated from the air." Okay, after that, the 4 people of Cangli Ling's family immediately took action. Chuan Beicheng searched all the way and finally found the Sutra Pavilion on the top of the stone mountain, but the 6 people didn't know it was the Sutra Pavilion at this time. "Look, there is a loft on the stone mountain. Could it be the Sutra Pavilion we have been looking for?" The person who spoke was obviously not confident enough. Chuan Beicheng took a look and immediately waved his hand and said, "Is it the Sutra Pavilion? We will know when we go there. It won't take long anyway." After that, he did not wait for Su Mao and the others, and immediately led the 2 of his own people to the stone mountain. It took half an incense stick of time for the 6 people to successfully climb the stone mountain. But looking at the scene in front of them, the 6 people instantly became silent. Chuan Beicheng said, Based on the remaining breath in the air, and what we saw and heard before, there must have been a formation here, protecting the entire loft in the middle, but not long ago, that formation was broken. Someone couldn't help but ask in confusion, break the formation? Are there really people living in this space, and are there powerful cultivators? It may not be done by people in this space, it may also be done by the monsters in this space. Based on the location of this attic, there is no reason for the monsters to attack the formation of the attic. Just as animals will not attack stones or trees, monsters will not attack the sutra library for no reason. Su Mao said, let's go in and take a look. Soon, everyone came to the first floor of the sutra library, and what they saw was the same as what the four people from Cangli Ling's family saw. This is indeed the sutra library of Kingdom sect. It seems that we didn't find the location. Ha ha ha. The six people seemed very excited, because the sutra library meant various cultivation methods, the inheritance of various immortal cultivation skills, and many other kinds of classics. As for Kingdom sect, they were not like the four people from Cangli Ling's family who knew nothing about it. Before coming, they had already read a lot of historical materials about the immortal cultivation world in Bihei, and also asked some cultivators. Although they did not fully understand Kingdom sect, they still knew a little. As far as they know, the 10,000 Islands chain belonged to the Eastern human race 10,000 years ago. There are many sects and families established by human cultivators on the island chain. The Kingdom sect is one of them. This sect was a cultivation force in the recent ancient times, which existed from 15,000 to 10,000 years ago. The sect was very powerful in the early days, and 3 Yuanying ancestors appeared, which also created a strong foundation for the Kingdom sect. After the last Yuanying ancestor passed away, the Kingdom sect never produced a Yuanying cultivator again, and its strength continued to decline. Of course, this is relatively speaking, and its strength is definitely among the best among the Jindan forces. 10,000 years ago, not long before the destruction of Zhenhe Palace, the strength of the Kingdom sect was still among the top 10 among all the Jindan forces in the North Sea at the same time. But with the sudden destruction of Zhenhe Palace overnight, the Western Demon Clan took the opportunity to sweep in. Because it came too suddenly, many forces on the 10,000 Islands chain were unable to react and were destroyed by the Demon Clan. Only a few forces successfully escaped from the 10,000 Islands chain and retreated to the east of the 1,000 Islands chain. Some forces sank the island where the sect's headquarters was located to the bottom of the sea, which formed the ruins of today. Chuan Beicheng and his 6 companions went up to the second floor and saw that it was in a mess. It was obviously looted. They instantly realized that in addition to the 6 of them, there must be other people who sneaked into this space. Let's go to the 3rd floor to have a look. However, there was nothing on the 3rd floor. Looking at the 8 bare stone platforms, they thought that the people who came first had taken everything on it. However, the 4 people from Cangli Ling's family only took the jade slip on 1 stone platform. If Ling Youdao knew what the 6 people were thinking, he would definitely cry out for injustice. On the other side, the 4 people from Cangli Ling's family finally found the spiritual medicine garden of Kingdom sect. The location of the spiritual medicine garden was indeed as expected by everyone. It was indeed in an unusually open and flat place on the ground. Chapter 221. Something is wrong. There is danger in the spiritual medicine garden. Chuan Beicheng and the other 6 were all furious. This was obviously done by someone, and by an outsider. If the original people in this space were here, they would never have waited until now to plunder the sutra library. Damn it, someone must have come in after us. Chuan Beicheng, do you think it was the people who left? Su Mao looked at Chuan Beicheng and said seriously. Chuan Beicheng thought for a while and said, not necessarily, but it is very likely that it was that group of people. Humph, it's all your fault that you let it slip. Hearing this, the man said aggrievedly, I didn't mean it. Several people soon quarreled together. Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao suddenly felt overwhelmed. Su Mao waved his hand and said angrily, okay, stop quarreling. If you have time to quarrel, why not think about what to do now? After this, several people immediately dared not speak. Now the other party is in the dark, and we are in the light. The other party knows our every move, but we know little about them. Su Mao continued to ask, what should we do next? The 2 parties, whose relationship was about to break up, once again put aside their past grudges and integrated together because of the presence of the 4 people from the Cangli Ling clan, to face the powerful Cangli Ling clan cultivators together. If those people really came in, those of us who stayed outside would probably be in danger. Indeed, The cultivators they left outside were only in the key training stage, so how could they be opponents of the foundation-building cultivators? The several people were in a heavy mood, and after a long time, Su Mao said, "The most urgent thing is how to ensure our own safety and not let those people take away all our treasures." The fact that the Cangli Ling clan had Ling Youdao, a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building, was enough to intimidate Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao. Of course, Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao did not know that Ling Youdao could only exert the strength of the middle stage of foundation building. Someone immediately agreed, "Yes, we have spent so much effort to open the ruins of Kingdom. We haven't even got the treasure yet, how can we let them take it away?" Chuan Beicheng said, "There are no treasures in the treasure pavilion of Kingdom. Let's go to other places. We must not let them take away all the treasures, this is not the same time as that. One step late will lead to all the steps late. We must collect enough treasures in the shortest time." The 6 people hurriedly left the Sutra Pavilion and headed for the Kingdom Spiritual Medicine Garden. Compared with the 4 people from Cangli Ling's family, they knew more about the ruins of Kingdom and had a map of the interior of Kingdom in their hands. Although the map was blurry, some places could still be seen clearly. On the other side, the Kingdom Spiritual Medicine Garden. The Spiritual Medicine Garden is an important place of a power. Its importance is not inferior to the Sutra Pavilion, and it will be protected by the formation. But the Kingdom Sect's Spiritual Medicine Garden was obviously not protected by a formation. It was unknown whether it was broken or lost its function over the long years. Anyway, the 4 people from the Cangli Ling family easily entered the Spiritual Medicine Garden. The Kingdom Sect was worthy of being a sect that focused on alchemy. The Spiritual Medicine Garden inside the sect was large and covered half of the mountain in a circular manner. Looking at such a large spiritual medicine garden, Ling Youdao couldn't help but sigh. In the current Beihaixin world, there are only 5 major sects that can have such a large spiritual medicine garden. Ling Youdao, Ling Dingshan, and Mu Yanran were also shocked. Compared with the spiritual medicine garden, the spiritual medicine garden of the Cangli Ling family was like the difference between a fist and a head. Because the time interval was too long, the spiritual medicine garden of the Kingdom sect not only grew spiritual medicines, but also many shrubs and trees. The spiritual medicine garden was originally fertile and full of spiritual energy, so both shrubs and trees grew particularly lush, forming a forest. And the spiritual medicine grew at the roots of the trees or in the open space between each forest. This is called a spiritual medicine garden, but it is actually more like a forest with a high density of spiritual medicines. Time is running out. Hurry up and pick the spiritual medicines. They immediately rushed into the spiritual medicine garden and found a spiritual medicine each, and began to pick spiritual medicines. The spiritual medicines here are basically concentrated according to their types. For example, if there is a yellow bud grass here, then the spiritual medicines in a large area nearby are all yellow bud grass, with only a very small number of individual spiritual medicines. In the area where the 4 people from the Cangli Ling family are located, there are a lot of spirit-gathering grasses growing. The spirit-gathering grass is a second-level low-grade spiritual medicine. It is the main medicine for refining the spirit-gathering pill and can assist the cultivators in the early stage of foundation building. At the foot of a big tree, Ling Youdao bent down to pick the spirit-gathering grass. Strange, how can the age of these spirit-gathering grasses be so low? Ling Youdao was puzzled. Logically, this place has been closed for 10,000 years. Although the spiritual medicines in it are not necessarily high-level spiritual medicines, their age should definitely not be low. Spiritual gathering grass is considered mature only when it is over 100 years old. The spirit gathering grass that Ling Youdao picked is basically about 60 years old, and the oldest is only 80 years old. He has not picked a spirit gathering grass that is over 100 years old. Even so, he still keeps picking spirit gathering grass. Although the age is not high, it is large in number. Ling Youdao, Ling Dingshan, and Mu Yanran are also facing this situation. There are not many spirit-gathering grasses over 100 years old in such a large area, which makes the 4 of them have to think wildly. Could it be that those people have visited here? While Ling Youdao was thinking, he suddenly saw a spiritual medicine with a stronger spiritual light. Good guy, I finally encountered a spirit-gathering grass that is over 100 years old. As he said, he walked towards the spirit-gathering grass with a smile on his face. The spirit-gathering grass grew at the intersection of 2 tree roots. There was no other spirit-gathering grass within a radius of 1 foot, and it occupied an area alone. Ling Youdao approached the spirit-gathering grass, bent down, and dug the soil with his spiritual shovel in his hand. Suddenly, a strong sense of crisis swept through his body. His eyes shrank and he rolled to the side in a very embarrassed manner. He stood up and looked at the location of the spirit-gathering grass. He saw a mantis waving its sickle at the branch of a big tree, staring at Ling Youdao with a fierce look. "Be careful, there is a monster in the spiritual medicine garden," Ling Youdao shouted the moment he saw the mantis. "What?" Ling Yuangu and the other two were shocked and immediately stopped picking the spirit-gathering grass. They were highly focused and alert to their surroundings. After a few breaths, the three of them looked towards Ling Youdao. They saw a huge mantis the size of a goat, with a green body and a white belly, confronting Ling Youdao. "Youdao, retreat quickly, this sharp blade green mantis is already a second-level upper-grade monster," Ling Yuangu said hurriedly. In fact, he didn't need to say it. From the breath emitted by the sharp blade green mantis, several people also understood the power of this monster. It is definitely a second-level upper-grade monster. Mu Yanran immediately rushed up. "Brother Youdao, be careful." Ling Dingshan also said angrily, "Evil beast, you hurt my nephew." Ling Yuangu also immediately took out his golden knife and killed the fierce green mantis that was eyeing him covetously. Chapter 222 Four Heroes Fighting Praying Mantis. Ling Yuangu exuded the aura of a late-stage foundation-building cultivator, and even faintly suppressed the sharp blade green mantis. When danger came, the sharp blade green mantis let Ling Youdao go and turned to look at Ling Yuangu. Squeak! The sharp blade green mantis kicked and swung its two swords at Ling Yuangu. Ling Yuangu also swung the golden eagle sword, which flashed with golden spiritual light. The golden light collided with the two green lights, making a clang sound. A huge force instantly spread through Ling Yuangu's body through the golden eagle sword, forcing him to slide back several feet away. In the end, he had to hold on to the trunk of a big tree to stabilize his body. On the other hand, the sharp blade green mantis only retreated slightly, then fell to the ground, raised his head, crossed his sickles, and beat rhythmically. Dang, dang, dang. It was like a death spell. Ling Youdao and the other two were shocked and rushed to Ling Yuangu's side. "Grandpa, are you okay?" Hearing this, Ling Yuangu took a breath. "Nothing serious." The sharp blade green mantis stared at the four people, full of doubts in his heart, wondering why Ling Yuangu was so weak. But it was still intimidated by the aura emitted by Ling Yuangu, and did not dare to attack casually, but confronted Ling Yuangu, looking for the opportunity to attack. "Uncle, this sharp blade green mantis is a second-level upper-grade monster beast, and its strength is really strong. Your injuries have not healed yet. You are definitely not the opponent of this monster alone. At this moment, only the four of us can solve it with our combined strength." Ling Yuangu nodded lightly. He knew that with his current strength, he could only save his life when facing the sharp blade green mantis, and it was impossible to kill it. Ling Youdao said, "Yanran, you cover us from behind." "Yes." After 2 breaths, Ling Yuangu, holding the golden eagle knife, attacked the sharp blade green mantis from the front, and Ling Dingshan held a mountain-shaking hammer in each hand and attacked the sharp blade green mantis from the left side. Ling Youdao, holding the yin-yang zhuangguang sword, attacked the blade mantis from the right. Mu Yanran did not move. She held the 5-colored fan in her right hand and waved it repeatedly at the blade mantis. Then a series of wind blades attacked the blade mantis from between the 3 people. Squeak! The blade mantis was already afraid of Ling Yuangu. Now there were 3 more people. It knew the danger and jumped away from the spot to avoid the attack. Then a green shadow jumped back and forth between the trees at an incredibly fast speed. Often when the 3 people just attacked a tree, the blade mantis jumped to the tree next to it. The 3 people couldn't even touch the blade mantis's buttocks. After several times in a row, Ling Dingshan was furious. He held the 2 mountain-shaking hammers tightly in both hands, swung his hands, and the 2 mountain-shaking hammers slammed into each other. Bang! A loud noise exploded like a cannonball, and the sound wave spread outward. The blade mantis jumped into the air and fell to the ground. Ling Yuangu and Ling Youdao seized the opportunity, and the golden eagle sword and yin-yang zhuangguang sword swung around and chopped directly at the sharp blade green mantis. The next moment, the sharp blade green mantis reacted, but it was too late to dodge the attacks of the 2 people, and could only resist 2 attacks. Ling Yuangu posed the greatest threat to it, so the sharp blade green mantis swung its 2 swords to meet the golden eagle sword, ready to use its body to resist Ling Youdao's yin-yang zhuangguang sword. Seeing this scene, Ling Youdao secretly shouted, "Good opportunity." The speed of the yin-yang Zhuangguang sword in his hand increased by 3 points, and it chopped directly at the joint of the right blade of the sharp blade green mantis. There is no protection at the joint, so it is the most vulnerable. If his sword really hits it, even if the right blade of the sharp blade green mantis is not cut off, it will definitely be difficult to exert its previous power. The reason why the sharp blade green mantis is so powerful and feared is because of its extremely sharp sickles. If it loses its sharp sickles, it will become a toothless tiger, and its strength will be greatly reduced. Feng Dao Qingling was still confident that he could block Ling Youdao's sword, otherwise he would not have tried his best to deal with Ling Yuangu's attack. Mu Yanran also seized this opportunity and waved the 5-color fan in her hand, and a golden light shot towards Feng Dao Qingling. Dang dang, the golden eagle sword and Feng Dao Qinglang's sickle collided with each other, and at the same time a barrier appeared in front of Feng Dao Qinglang, blocking the golden light. When the yin-yang Zhuangguang sword approached the joint of Feng Dao Qinglang's right sickle, the sword suddenly glowed brightly. Feng Dao Qingling was horrified and was about to swing his right sickle to resist Ling Youdao's yin-yang Zhuangguang sword, but was forcibly stopped by Ling Yuangu. Ling Yuangu didn't know what was going on, but he knew the power of Ling Youdao's sword, and Feng Dao Qingling would definitely not feel good, so he forced himself to create opportunities for Ling Youdao. Then the sword body of the yin-yang Zhuangguang sword separated, and a red beam shot towards the joint of Feng Dao Qinglang's right sickle, and there was a faint wolf howl in the beam. Squeak! The yin-yang Zhuangguang sword is a pair of yin-yang swords. The red light that just shot out is the yang sword. Because the speed is too fast, people think that it is a red light. As for the faint roar of the wolf, it is the essence of the blazing wolf sealed in the sword. It is driven by Ling Youdao's magic power and blesses the yang sword that is shut out. The power of the yang sword is huge, and it cuts off the joints in an instant. The right sickle of the sharp blade green mantis falls directly to the ground. Squeak! The pain of the broken arm is painful to the bone. The sharp blade green mantis looks up to the sky and roars. The only remaining left sickle is waving randomly, and the sharp teeth bite towards Ling Youdao. Obviously, it is angry. The 3 people stopped when they saw the good, and immediately moved away from the sharp blade green mantis. Ling Youdao caused such great damage to the sharp blade green mantis, how could it let Ling Youdao go easily? Then the sharp blade green mantis did not chase after Ling Yuangu, who it feared the most, but killed Ling Youdao, who was only in the initial stage of foundation building. Although the blade mantis had lost one arm, its strength was still strong. At this time, it was in a rage. It ignored Ling Youdao's attack and rushed towards him, determined to take his life. Ling Youdao could only passively parry. The blade mantis attacked very quickly. He didn't even have time to summon Cangli Island and Cangli Yangain. Sweat immediately covered his forehead. "Brother Youdao, be careful." Seeing that Ling Youdao was in danger, Mu Yanran hurriedly waved the 5-color fan. Then, the wind was blown out of thin air. This wind was like a cage, flowing around the blade mantis. It seemed that a big bird with 5-color feathers was circling around the blade mantis, trapping it in place and preventing it from chasing Ling Youdao. Ling Youdao took the opportunity to fly a distance away, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. The blade mantis was strong-willed, and the 5-color glare had little effect on it. It rushed left and right, trying to escape Mu Yanran's wind cage. "Hurry up and kill it. My wind scroll cage won't hold out for much longer." Hearing this, Ling Youdao and the other 2 were in a hurry. They didn't even bother to rest and immediately activated their own spiritual weapons. In an instant, the phantoms of the blazing wolf, the golden eagle, and the raging bear appeared around them. The phantoms of the 3 monsters roared continuously and pounced on the blade mantis in the wind scroll cage with the 3 spiritual weapons. Chapter 223 It's all because of my dirty hands. Squeak! The sharp blade green mantis only had time to let out an angry roar before it died completely. Seeing that the sharp blade green mantis was dead, the 4 people of Cangli Ling's clan collected their spiritual weapons and breathed a sigh of relief. "It's finally dead," Ling Youdao said with relief. "This time it was really dangerous. If there was any mistake, the 4 of us would have died at the hands of this monster." The 4 people thought for a moment that if they all died here, Cangli Ling's clan would be in even worse trouble. Mu Yanran smiled bitterly and said, "Fortunately, we killed this monster in the end." After the 4 people rested for a while, Ling Youdao sighed and said, "We should have guessed it a long time ago. Indeed, in such a closed world, There were not many mature plants among the large area of spiritual medicines. It was strange. Now that I think about it carefully, the mature spirit-gathering grass must have been eaten by the sharp-blade green mantis. It must be because it ate so much spirit-gathering grass that the sharp-blade green mantis has such strong strength. Ling Youdao said, "It has been a long time since the formation in the Kingdom Sect's spiritual medicine garden was broken. Although it is a spiritual medicine garden, it is like a sparse forest. There must be more than one monster in it, and there are even stronger monsters. We were negligent before, and we must be more careful in the future." Hearing this, the four nodded. Yes, the body of the sharp-blade green mantis was not big, and it was a second-level upper-grade monster, worth a lot of spiritual stones, so Ling Youdao put it all into the storage bag on his waist, and then continued to pick spiritual gathering grass. While the four people of Cangli Ling's family were picking spiritual herbs, the 6 foundation-building cultivators also rushed to the Kingdom Sect's spiritual medicine garden, but they were a distance away from the 4 people of Cangli Ling's family. "You also felt the spiritual energy fluctuations before, right?" Chuan Beichang glanced at the 5 people. The 5 people nodded, and Su Mao replied, "Well, the breath is very strong. It is probably a second-level upper-grade monster. Fortunately, it released its breath to let us know the danger of the spiritual medicine garden. The monster is in the dark, we are in the light, we must be careful." Understood. The 6 people continued to pick spiritual herbs. After a cup of tea, someone suddenly shouted, "There is a monster." Several people were startled, and Chuan Beichang hurriedly repeated, "There is a monster, everyone be careful and alert." Then they saw a little monkey on a big tree not far away throwing stones at several people. Someone couldn't help laughing and said, "It's just a first-level lower-grade monster, you are too surprised." Then they saw this person flicked his finger, and a small ball of fire flew towards the cub of the powerful star ape. How could a mere first-level lower-grade powerful star ape be the opponent of the foundation-building cultivator? It was wrapped in flames and lost its life after a scream. It was said that it was too late, and several people laughed out loud when they saw this. Su Mao was instantly furious. "Idiot." Seeing him angry, several people did not dare to speak anymore. "This is not a monkey, but a powerful ape," Chuan Beichang also said angrily. "The powerful ape is a social monster. Since we have seen a baby of the powerful ape, there must be a group of powerful apes nearby." A group of powerful apes. Several people felt cold instantly. Although the powerful ape was only a first-class monster, in such a unique environment, it is hard to guarantee that there will not be a few second-class powerful apes in the group of powerful apes. What's more important is that there must be many monsters in a group. If they are enemies with so many monsters, the powerful apes will probably turn the surrounding area upside down. This will definitely attract the attention of more and stronger monsters. If the people of Cangli Ling's family wait for an opportunity to kill again, they will be in great danger. The person who attacked said in fear, "What should we do? The only way now is to leave here as soon as possible before the powerful apes find us." The man hurriedly said, "Let's go quickly." The next moment, a roar of an ape came from not far away. Roar. Then, a series of roars of apes were heard. "No, the powerful apes have already found us. Don't bother with them. Go quickly." This area was originally the territory of the powerful apes. Before, the powerful apes were taking a nap not far away. The arrival of the 6 people aroused the curiosity of the little powerful ape, so he sneaked over to take a look. But he didn't want to be killed casually. However, the screams before death awakened all the powerful apes who were taking a nap. They followed the sound of the cubs and the smell left behind. The 6 people immediately ran in the opposite direction, using the light body technique on the way, and their speed increased suddenly. After a while, a group of powerful apes came, about 50 or 60, including cubs and underage powerful apes. Each powerful star ape had a different aura, and 5 of them were particularly powerful. They were 5 second-level monsters. The leading powerful star ape was more than 10 feet tall, with a tuft of white hair on its head. It walked to the charred cub. Looking at the dead cub, it let out a roar of anger. Roar. He clenched his fists and kept beating his chest, releasing an explosive aura instantly. A second-level upper-grade monster? Yes, the leader of the powerful Star Ape clan is a powerful second-level upper-grade monster, and its momentum is even higher than that of the sharp-blade green mantis. Trample tumble. Trample tumble. The leader of the powerful Star Ape chased the 6 people who escaped, and the remaining powerful Star Apes followed closely behind. Dozens of powerful star apes ran together, and the sound of their feet stomping on the ground echoed in the spiritual medicine garden. The nearby ground was vibrating, and the beasts along the way hid here and there, or ran for their lives. A big wild boar lost its way in panic and ran in front of the powerful Star Ape clan. The leader of the powerful ape was already angry, and he swung his right arm like a huge steel rod to hit the wild boar, but the wild boar exploded in mid-air into a rain of broken flesh and blood. Roar! The leader of the powerful ape kicked and jumped high to pounce on the person in front. With a bang, the leader of the powerful ape landed on the ground, with a person under his two palms. Roar! Ah, save me! Hearing this, the 5 people looked back and were immediately scared to death. How could they dare to save their companions who were pressed by the leader of the powerful ape? They immediately turned around, sacrificed their flying swords, and wanted to escape to a distance. The target of flying with a sword is too big and extremely dangerous. But at this moment, the 5 people can no longer care so much. If they don't escape as quickly as possible, they will definitely die at the hands of the powerful ape. The leader of the powerful ape pressed his 2 palms, and the blood plasma of the person under his palms burst instantly. Roar! The 5 people flew in the sky, but the powerful ape clan did not give up chasing them. They ran all the way, and some of the powerful apes pulled up the trees along the way, and dirt balls appeared in front of the other part of the powerful apes. The trees and dirt balls were shot at the 5 people in the sky like cannonballs. The 5 people didn't dare to look back, but just kept flying forward. As for attracting the attention of the monsters on the way, they didn't care so much. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224, The Approaching Monsters. The 4 people of the Cangli clan were picking spiritual herbs. Suddenly, a figure flew over from a distance on a sword. Look, there are people, Ling Youdao suddenly shouted. When they heard the sound, they looked over and saw 4 figures flying over here on swords. It's them, Ling Youdao said. Mu Yanran asked in confusion, shouldn't there be 6 of them? Why are there only 4? Are they hiding nearby and want to ambush us? Ling Youdao smiled and said, they are fleeing in a panic. It seems that they are in danger, he immediately said, hide first. After that, the 3 of them hide aside. However, they were discovered by Chuan Beicheng and the other 4. It's those people, Chuan Beicheng gritted his teeth and said, let's go find them. They have a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building. If we join hands, we should be able to protect ourselves. Su Mao agreed with him, and the 4 of them flew straight towards the 4 people of the Cangli clan. Roar! The number of powerful star apes chasing the 4 people was greatly reduced, but in addition to the powerful star apes, there were 3 more second-level monsters chasing the 4 people. In the process of pursuit, they will inevitably pass through the territories of other second-level monsters. Although the powerful star apes are numerous and their leader is a second-level top-grade monster, they are still targeted by second-level monsters along the way, resulting in many first-level powerful star apes and the tribe being killed and becoming food for other monsters. It is obviously not worth the loss to chase and kill several people at such a high price, but the powerful star ape tribe still pursues them relentlessly, because the powerful star ape cub they killed is the leaders. Because of this, the leader of the powerful star ape will pursue them to death, and the rest of the powerful star ape tribe will follow the leader. Seeing that the 4 people changed direction, Ling Youdao was slightly surprised. Oh no, our whereabouts have been exposed, they are all coming towards us. The next moment, the 4 people of Cangli clan only felt the ground vibrate slightly, and as time passed, the vibration became more and more obvious. Not good, a large number of monsters are coming towards us, run. The 4 people of Cangli clan knew that they had been discovered, so they no longer hid. Those who needed to fly swords flew swords, and those who needed to fly knives flew knives, and fled in the direction away from the monster group at the fastest speed. Seeing this, Chuan Beicheng gritted his teeth and said, chase, keep up with them. With the strength of the 4 people, it is simply unrealistic to deal with so many monsters. They want to pull the 4 people of Cangli clan in to share some of the pressure, so that they may be able to get rid of the pursuit of the monster group. The ruins of Kingdom Gate have been closed for more than 10,000 years, and the spiritual medicine garden has been quiet for who knows how many years. But this silence was broken. The momentum of the monster group oppressed the wild beasts and low-level monsters along the way, forcing the wild beasts and low-level monsters to flee, forming a beast tide. Suddenly, a flying monster pounced on Ling Youdao, and Ling Youdao was instantly furious. Looking for death, he threw the mountain-shaking hammer in his right hand fiercely. And the mountain-shaking hammer spun and hit the second-level flying monster that pounced on him. The flying monster screamed and spun in the air, and it took a while to stabilize its body. Damn it, the noise was too loud, and all the monsters around were attracted. The 4 people from the Cangli and Ling families were entangled by the monster and could not get away for a while. It was just at this time that the 4 people from Chuanbei caught up. Roar, help! Su Mao turned around and saw a ball of mud and sand collide with a person behind him. The speed of the ball was very fast, and it was so fierce that a small cultivator in the early stage of foundation building could not resist it. The next moment, the ball of mud hit the man. Bang! Puff! The man suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Friend Quan, Su Mao clenched his fists tightly, but did not dare to turn back to save him. That was a second-grade upper-grade powerful star ape. Although Su Mao was a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building, he was much stronger than the cultivator surnamed Quan, but he was still far behind the second-grade upper-grade powerful star ape. Su Mao gritted his teeth and turned back, following Chuanbei and the other 2 to fly towards the 4 people from the Cangli Ling clan. The monk surnamed Quan fell to the ground and was stepped on by the powerful star ape. He was immediately picked up by his hand and thrown out violently, like a huge rock that broke 7 or 8 trees in a row. Most of the bones in his body were broken. Even if he was not killed by the powerful star ape today, he would be unable to move again for the rest of his life, unless he used high-level healing pills. But how could the powerful star ape let it go? A big rock was seen hiding the man, smashing him to pieces in an instant. Chuanbei hurriedly said, "For Taoist friends, the monster is very powerful. We are definitely not opponents if we fight alone. If we want to survive, we can only join hands to deal with the monster." Su Mao also said, "Fellow Taoist Chuan is right. We may have had some misunderstandings before, but now we should put aside our past grudges and overcome difficulties together." The 4 people from the Cangli Ling clan frowned, and were very angry with the 3 people in their hearts. If the 3 people had not attracted the monster, how could they have been attacked by the monster? After calming down for a while, the 4 members of the Cangli Ling clan nodded, and they had to nod. The monsters were too powerful at the moment, and the 4 of them alone were no match for them. They also urgently needed allies. "Okay, we agree to join forces with you, but you'd better not play any tricks, otherwise even if the 4 of us are killed, we will definitely drag you down with us." Ling Youdao said harsh words in advance to intimidate the other party and make Chuanbei and the other 2 have some concerns about their actions. Hearing this, Chuanbei and Su Mao said without thinking, "Okay." Chuanbei continued, "Don't worry, fellow Taoist, we know the importance of this matter and will never start an internal conflict at this time." Ling Youdao pointed out that he believed that they were not brainless and reckless. The 7 people gathered together. Just looking at their surface cultivation, Ling Youdao strongest one was a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building, followed by Chuanbei and Su Mao, both of whom were cultivators in the middle stage of foundation building, and the remaining 4 were only cultivators in the early stage of foundation building. But Ling Youdao and Ling Youdao were strong enough to fight against cultivators in the middle stage of foundation building. The monsters were approaching, and there were 11 second-level monsters, not counting the other first-level monsters. "Everyone, don't hold back, go all out, otherwise we will have no chance of survival." Yes, Ling Youdao's aura suddenly increased, not inferior to Chuanbei who was not far away. Ling Youdao shouted loudly, and his muscles suddenly swelled, and he became taller. The mountain-shaking hammer in his hand also became larger, like a little giant standing in the middle of several people, and it was so dazzling. The sudden change shocked Chuanbei and the other 2, and they said in their hearts, "We still underestimated them," but they smiled immediately. The stronger their strength was, the safer they would be. Looking at the second-level monsters, Ling Youdao shouted, "Kill!" Hearing this, the 7 people immediately killed the monsters, and the talismans in the storage bag were scattered like spirit stones. Many first-level monsters fell to the ground and died, and the second-level monsters were also affected. Chapter 225, The Great Demon Blue Sky Python. Although there were many monsters, the human cultivators had endless means. not to mention all kinds of talismans. Some even brought array plates and array flags, and immediately set up an array. As the monsters were killed one by one, the solemnity on the faces of the 6 people eased a little. Squeak, ah! One after another, the monsters fell to the ground and died miserably, and before they died, they let out angry and unwilling wails. Roar! Suddenly, a loud roar came from the depths of the spiritual medicine garden, and the sound was accompanied by a crushing pressure. When this pressure came, all the beasts crawled on the ground, even many of the first-level monsters did the same. As for the second-level monsters, they trembled all over and bowed their heads, not daring to have the slightest intention of resisting this momentum. The 6 people trembled, and their faces showed fear. This is a big monster. Immediately, Ling Youdao waved his hand and shouted, "Hurry up! Once the third-level big monster arrives, we will be dead." However, everyone was like a fool, standing there blankly, motionless. Damn it, I was scared silly. As soon as the voice fell, Ling Youdao was the first to come back to his senses. His face was no longer as brave as before, and was full of anxiety. "Youdao, what are you in a daze? Run for your life." Ling Youdao was indeed brave and confident in his own strength. But being brave does not mean being lawless, and self-confidence does not mean being conceited. Facing a third-level monster, he did not have the courage to seek death. After being shouted by Ling Youdao, Ling Youdao came back to his senses in an instant and hurriedly flew to Mu Yanran's side. "Yanran, run, oh!" When the 4 people of Cangli Ling's family were about to escape, Chang Beichuan and Su Mao reacted belatedly and hurriedly caught up with the 4 people in front. As for the other person, he was injured in the previous battle with the monster and was finally killed by the monster. It was said that it was too late, and the whole process took only 1 or 2 breaths. With the appearance of the third-level monster, the spiritual medicine garden of Kingdom was instantly in chaos. A green python was circling in the sky. Its body was over 10 feet long. Its back and sides were covered with green scales, and its belly was white flesh. It opened its bloody mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. The green python was extremely fast, and it flew in front of the 6 people in a few blinks of an eye. Its huge body was lying in front of the 6 people, with its body raised high, and its huge head facing the 6 people who were fleeing. In an instant, the 6 people's hearts sank to the bottom. This was a third-level monster. How could a foundation-building cultivator be its opponent? Facing such a powerful monster, everyone could only be slaughtered. The green python stared at the 6 people, and no one dared to move, fearing that it would be angered if they moved. Hiss! Hiss! The green python's eyes were full of playfulness, like a cat playing with a mouse, and it was very disdainful of the 6 people. The faces of the 6 people were uglier than each other, and they probably couldn't escape this time. They didn't dare to escape, but they knew that if they didn't escape and stayed here, the result would be only one word. Die, Ling Youdao whispered. "Everyone, this is the third-level demon King Shin Python, whose strength is comparable to that of a Jindan Clan. If we stay here, we will definitely die. If we want to survive, we have to take a risk. Maybe there's still a glimmer of hope." He did not dare to look at the few people and lowered his voice very low, fearing that he would anger King Shin Python. Everyone also did not dare to turn their heads to look, but Ling Youdao's words instantly woke up several people. If they don't escape, they will definitely die here. If they escape, they may die, but they have more chances to live. Ling Youdao has been staring at King Shin Python with his eyes, pretending to be facing a great enemy. "Grandpa, how can we escape now?" Although King Shin Python did not make a move, it stared at the few people tightly, and they had no chance to escape at all. Hearing this, the few people immediately showed a bitter face, because what Ling Youdao said was an indisputable fact. Ling Youdao sighed and said, "The only way now is to escape separately. Maybe one of us can escape." Everyone was helpless, but they had to agree with Ling Youdao's plan. That's the only way. However, Ling Youdao continued, "Youdao, I'll attract the attention of the blue sky python later, and you take the opportunity to escape separately." Ling Youdao was shocked and asked, "Grandpa, you won't escape with us? If we all escape, no one will be able to escape in the end." After that, Ling Youdao threw his storage bag to Ling Youdao, and then flew out with his sword, holding the golden eagle sword, and killed the blue sky python. "Youdao, you guys run away quickly." Seeing that Ling Youdao had collected the storage bag, Chuan Beicheng and Su Mao immediately turned around and fled to the left and right. Seeing that the little bug dared to escape, the blue sky python, which had been silent all the time, was instantly furious. Hiss! Ling Youdao immediately met the blue sky python and roared, "I told you to run, run!" Every word and every sentence pierced Ling Youdao's heart. He suppressed the grief in his heart and waved his hand, saying, "Let's go." Ling Dingshan and Mu Yanran were also unwilling in their hearts, but at this moment, they had to run away, otherwise Ling Youdao's sacrifice would be in vain. "Escape separately," Ling Youdao said in an unquestionable tone. He didn't want to separate from Mu Yanran, but separation was the best choice. The three of them immediately separated and fled, leaving Ling Youdao alone to hold back the azure sky python. A golden eagle phantom appeared in front of the golden eagle sword. Although the azure sky python was a third-level monster, he was still not afraid. Hiss! The azure sky python pushed forward and collided with a golden eagle phantom. The azure sky python was a third-level monster, while the golden eagle was only a second-level monster, and it was not the body of the golden eagle, but only its spirit. How could it be a match for the azure sky python? It could even be said that it was vulnerable. When the two collided, the phantom of the golden eagle instantly collapsed. Bang! The azure sky python hit the golden eagle sword, which was instantly knocked away and flew towards Ling Youdao. Ling Youdao immediately held the golden eagle sword in front of him, and the azure sky python, which was still powerful, directly hit it. Ling Youdao flew backwards and spit out a mouthful of blood. However, he was not as fast as the blue sky python, which aimed its mouth at Ling Youdao. Roar! A beam of blue light shot out of its mouth, and this beam of blue light hit Ling Youdao. Ah! Ling Youdao roared unwillingly, and then his body was completely destroyed in the beam. Hiss! The angry blue sky python roared, and the sound wave attack spread in all directions. Ordinary wild beasts and many first-level monsters exploded and died directly, and even second-level monsters kept roaring in pain. Ling Youdao was affected by the sound wave, and his stomach was churning. A mouthful of blood reached his throat, but he forced it back. "Grandpa!" He clenched his hands, feeling angry and sad. "Damn it, the blue sky python is coming at me. Since the blue sky python is coming at me, doesn't it mean that Yanran is safe now?" Thinking of this, Ling Youdao felt better. "No, I must not die here." Ling Youdao immediately released Hongyu, and Hongyu carried him to escape. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.